The most thrilling, spine-tingling series ever.
From the pages of R.L. Stine's best-selling books,
And the screams go on forever and ever.
We now return to Goosebumps.
Greetings, Goosebumps fans, young and old, big and small, living dead and undead. Welcome back to the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. As always, I am your host, Isaiah Vargas, and I'm joined by my good buddies Bjorn Pelnick and Nick Shaw. We are the Goosebumps Crew, and we're back to, as always, talk some Goosebumps. If this is your first time joining us here on the Goosebumps Crew Podcast, I want to sincerely welcome you all. If you are, or have ever been a fan of the popular Goosebumps series of books or the monster franchise that those books spawned, I have a feeling that this podcast is going to be right up your alley. Because as I always say, me, Bjorn, and Nick are some of the biggest Goosebumps nerds on the entire planet. We can talk about Goosebumps for hours on end. That's exactly what we do here on this podcast. Every week we have a brand new episode talking about everything Goosebumps, whether it be from the books, TV shows, movies, video games, merchandise, whatever it is. If it has Goosebumps in the name, we're going to talk about it till the word Goosebumps doesn't sound real anymore. Like, you're just going to say, that's not a real word. You've heard it so many times. So with all that said, if you end up liking today's episode, make sure you leave a like and comment. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the Goosebumps Crew YouTube channel and hit the bell notification. New episodes go up every Wednesday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, so you can hit that notification bell to get updates when those videos go up. But if you're just dying to get new episodes before they go up on YouTube, you can catch the audio-only versions over on our audio platforms. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, wherever you can get your podcasts. Those versions go up every Tuesday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, so you can catch them over there. And of course, you can follow the Goosebumps Crew on social media and Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. You can also follow Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps Aussie Fan and Shawn, respectively, on their social medias and their YouTubes. All those links are going to be in the description below, so check them out. Join the Goosebumps Crew, become a crew member today. We thank you in advance for your support. Now, before we get into this week's, I want to give...
Hold on. So, does anybody else... Okay, real quick. Has anybody else ever watched Ace Ventura?
I
feel like everybody has to. Does anybody else think... And I don't know why this just popped in my head after you finished your intro, and you've done it so many times, but like, I don't know. That's why I started laughing. I was thinking now I see Ace Ventura, he's just going to go and he just starts rolling into it really fast. Like, yeah. And then he just doesn't breathe. Like, yeah, no, I don't know why that was so funny to me, but yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I've done this intro so many
weird.
times that at this point it's just like clockwork. So I just run it off and try to, it's almost like a game. You try to like run it through and see how fast you can get it every single time. Like, at some point, I'll get it.
I'm going to need you to learn the Ray Finkel speech that he does, and we need to do that in the intro.
Yes.
And let me see, because I feel you could do it. I believe
Probably
you.
so, if I have enough tries at it. Now, before we get to this week's topic, I want to introduce our two very special guests. First off, I want to welcome back our good friend, Mr. Tim Jacobus, the awesome artist behind the original Goosebumps series of books. Tim, always a pleasure. How you doing tonight?
All good. Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Of course, you're always welcomed. And also joining us tonight, he is an artist and YouTuber. We're very excited to welcome Jallomoth to the Goosebumps Crew. Jallo, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm a lifelong Goosebumps fan, and I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. And we've invited Jallomoth because he did an awesome two-part video series ranking all 62 original Goosebumps covers, not just the art, the covers. So like every single aspect. It's a great video. Go watch it. We'll leave a link in the description below. So go check it out and sub to his channel too, because he's awesome and he deserves the support. But we're very glad to have you both, Jallo and Tim. And art is the name of the game tonight because, as we've always talked about, Goosebumps has some incredible artwork, not just Tim Jacobus's art, even though it's, Tim Jacobus's art is the most iconic, and he's done arguably the most art in the Goosebumps franchise, but there's also tons of other artists who have done work on the Goosebumps series. Craig White, Mark Nagata, and the Give Yourself series. Brandon Dorman, he did everything in the late 2000s, 2010s, even the early 2020s with Horrorland and the reprints, Slappy World Most Wanted. And very recently, Robert Ball, who's taken over for the House of Shiver series. And that's not even mentioning all the different graphic novel artists, the people who do the covers for those, promotional art, like so many artists. So many artists, we could talk about it for hours, but today we're talking specifically about cover art because cover art is the hook that gets you into these Goosebumps books. And you could probably ask any Goosebumps fan that the art is the thing that hooks them in to wanting to read the stories. This is something that you've told us before, Tim, is that you were sort of like the hook and R.L. Stine reeled you in with the story. So it was like a good 1-2 punch of that. So today we're going to do our fair dues to the cover art of Goosebumps, and we are going to rank each of our top 10 favorite Goosebumps cover arts. Now, of course, we want to give praise to any and all art in the Goosebumps series. So we have chosen from every artist who's done a cover art. It has to have been on a published book, though. But any Goosebumps book, any cover art, it is fair game. We don't know any of our picks. So
I didn't know that coming into tonight. So I completely had to take one of mine out prior to us recording tonight. When you said that, I was like, shit. So I had to take out the Haunted Mask Lives because that was one of mine.
Yes.
But
well, and as we talked about before we started recording, if we were going to put that in, I would have definitely put Happy Holidays from Dead House on mine because that is a really good one. But to be fair, we have to keep it to published books only. So Goosebumps Gold gets an honorable mention. So, but I'm very excited to know where you guys all land on your picks. We don't know any of our picks. We're all going in blind. So this is going to be a really, really fun one. Now, of course, I'll get things started off. So we're going to start off with our number 10 picks. And for mine, this one is a little more biased because this was one of the first Goosebumps books I ever saw. And it was just so weird and interesting that I couldn't take my eyes off it. And that's going to go to Give Yourself Goosebumps number 6, Beware the Purple Peanut Butter. This was by Mark Nagata, and it is my favorite cover art that he's done for Give Yourself Goosebumps. I mean, just look at it. It's a kid in a giant sandwich, 2 pieces of bread with all that goopy purple peanut butter on it. And I'll tell you right now, most of my picks involve goop in some way. There's just something about slimy, goopy sludge smearing all over the place that is just, I don't know, it makes for a really good art.
That was the essence of Goosebumps in the 90s, though. Everything was slime and splat and goop.
Exactly. Everything was gross in some sort of way. So, but yeah, that's my number 10. Like I said, one of the first Goosebumps books. What a book to like see first. It was just like, it wasn't even a mainline series book, but this was always just one that stuck in my head. It was just like, I gotta see what series of events transpires to get to that point. So I love this one. It makes me laugh, and it is my number 10 pick.
Eaten by the sandwich. Looks like he was eating the sandwich.
Gross.
I, ironically enough, had a peanut butter and jelly for dinner tonight. So,
now
no kids in it that I'm aware of, though.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Hopefully, it wasn't purple. I wouldn't eat anything that was purple slime.
I mean, my jelly was.
Nah, I guess that's true. Bjorn, what do you got?
So my 10, I kind of picked them based on like, I mean, obviously I had to go back and look at them all again because, you know, there's so many now. But I tried to go based on the ones that I used to just stare at a lot and I just couldn't take my eyes off. My number 10, my least favorite of my favorites, I guess is a way to put it, is Night in Terror Tower. There's just something about the endless corridor and then the Executioner, because, I mean, let's face it, that is the definitive look of the Executioner that we all know and love. We've talked about this so many times, how we wish in the TV show the Executioner did just look like that, apart from that one scene. But yeah, I love the colors in this one. So yeah, Tim, obviously starting with you. But yeah, there's just something about this cover art. And I even think back to like the Night in Terror Tower behind the scenes where like Corey Sevier like holds up the book. You know, there's just something about it. It's very iconic to me and aesthetically very pleasing. I used to stare at this book a lot as a kid. And I actually had someone recently do a sculpture. I might go grab it later. And it was a book that had a bunch of the different Goosebump monsters coming out, and that included the execution.
Yeah.
It looks really
Awesome.
You might remember that.
That's a cool piece. That's a cool piece that you got.
Yeah.
It was very cool. So RJ Murta on Instagram, check him out if you want a Goosebump sculpture. But yeah, I love the cover art for Night in Terror Tower. To me, it's just so iconic. I love the covers, and yeah, it's beautiful. But that's my number 10 pick.
Awesome. Tim, we're going to go to you next for your number 10.
Yeah, we talked a little briefly before the show started up. I'm here tonight as the advocate for Brandon Dorman. I think his work is incredible. He had like you said, he's done quite a number of different covers. I hear often, and it's very humbling, people tell me how much that they love the work that I did on the covers. And he sometimes gets a backhand in that compliment. And I'm here to say I'm a huge fan of his artwork. And I encourage everybody to go out, search his name, just simply go to his website. He's got a gallery there that will show you a ton of his stuff. And I think that the most interesting art that he's done over the years is the stuff he didn't do for Goosebumps. Although the stuff he's done an incredible number of very cool things for Goosebumps, the art that you'd probably be less familiar with will be more impressive to you if you're not a fan. So for my number 10, I'm going to start out with one that he did, which was a redo, of a character that I liked a lot, that I did for the 2000 series, and that's Creature Teacher: The Final Exam. And I like the way he put the spotlight on the teacher. I don't have the example in front of me, but the blackboard, instead of being green, is yellow, and then he's used the rim light around it. So it's a very dramatic lighting on the teacher, and he followed through with those weird bug eyes that are hanging out. So I dig that one.
Essentially, it was more exaggerated in some ways too. I remember when that book was first teased, and I was just like, it was crazy because it's so familiar, yet he added his own spin to it. Even
Absolutely.
the eyes are a lot more monstrous and yellow. There's a lot more like drool just dripping from the mouth. So it's almost like he paid his homage and then also like added his own.
Dialed it up.
Yeah, it's a great one. A great number 10 pick. Absolutely.
I remember seeing that on shelf when it first came out and thinking like, wow, that's so cool. Like it definitely does pay homage to the original, you know?
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Like,
it shows that they have respect for what came before, but they can add what they like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What adds
Take it to the next level.
Yep. All right, Jello, we're going to throw it to you next. What is your number 10 pick?
So to preface, I guess, just a little bit, in my video where I was ranking all 62 of the original covers, like you said, I was trying to be as objective as I possibly could. I mean, art is the most subjective thing there is, but I was trying to just give it this area of subjectivity by, like scoring them. I gave different scores for how well I think the title and the tagline and the color scheme like enhanced Tim's artwork. And for this, I really wanted to go more just like personal and like instinctive and just kind of go with whatever spoke to me instead of trying to focus on anything else. Because there's some stuff, that I probably would have changed about my video if it was totally just me, from my heart. But my number 10 is Goosebumps Most Wanted Volume 4 Frankenstein's Dog by Brandon Dorman. I think that crazy looking animals are a very, very important thing in Goosebumps' history, and that's, obviously because of R.L. Stine's ideas and Tim's work, and I really think that Frankenstein's Dog is like the end point. It's like the logical conclusion of it is like the perfect, it is the most mangy, insane looking thing, like the scarring, the eyes, the snaggle teeth, the eyeball for the collar. Everything about that piece is just absolutely flawless to me. And it is just so catchy. It is one of like the only covers from that era that I like very vividly just remember. It's always been in my head. And so, yeah, that's going to be my first pick.
Awesome. I agree, but definitely. And that Most Wanted era, like, I think it might be because it was sort of like a spotlight sort of thing for those kind of covers. It was basically the monster almost in like a police lineup, but it put more focus on the actual monster itself. So Brandon really like hammed it up on the designs for like the gnomes and Planet of the Lawn Gnomes, or the monster, How I Met Your Monster, even Slappy a little bit. Like when you got to Slappy World, he went over for more of the movie design, but those covers just got really, really crazy.
Yeah, Dreamland, great one too.
That was a great one.
That was
Nick, what do you got for number 10?
Ironically enough,
we spoiled it.
I have always loved this cover. It's probably my favorite he's done. It just, when I saw it on the shelf, like, I've never even read the book. I bought it for the cover. I'll be straight honest. Like, I love that art. Like, it's something so creepy just about, one, dummies are creepy enough. We've talked about that before in the past. And you always, as a kid, feared something under your bed. But imagine if it's a dummy under your bed that's alive. I mean, that just, and the fact that we can see it on this cover is creepy as hell. So, and they gave Slappy red eyes, which I think works really great for this cover. Normally we see him with like brown eyes, or in the show's adaptation, green eyes. But with red eyes, I don't know. It kind of irks you a little bit, especially when you see him just smiling and creeping out from underneath the bed. So I think he did really well with that. Just showing just enough of Slappy's face out of the bed's shadows that just creeps you out.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what it would have looked like if it was, as I said, Brandon went for more of the movie Slappy for Slappy World, which is fine, but I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I actually prefer his Slappy design before that, like for Horrorland and stuff like that. There was something about it. It looked a lot more like menacing. It looked a lot more like a puppet. And I don't know. I always preferred that design that he did for Slappy over the one that was more akin to the movie. I wonder what it would have looked like if he kept that original design, but I agree. That's a really.
I wonder if that was like his decision, or if Scholastic said change this because we now have a movie Slappy. Kind of like draw people more to the books.
Probably Scholastic had a hand in that, but you never know. Maybe it was a creative choice. And like I said, it's not bad at all. Like not one iota. It's just a personal preference, but yeah. Right. Well, so far good start. Only one Tim Jacobus art. Now I'm wondering.
There you go. Right there you go.
That's only because we're in the lower ranks, bro.
Okay. Well, we're not out of the lower ranks yet, and actually, we're not out of the Give Yourself series yet. My number 9 is going to go to. Remember what I said about goopy stuff? That's why I really love It Came From the Internet. I don't know if you guys can see without the glare getting on, but number 1, this octopus is dripping clear slime all over that computer. But I also love this one because it's great fan service. You have the stack of Goosebumps books right here in the corner and the Goosebumps poster. So it's almost like this creature's coming out into the real world of supposedly a Goosebumps fan. I know this is definitely one of Craig's favorites. This was Craig White who did this one. He was doing this series at the time. This is definitely one of Craig White's favorites that he's done, and I have to totally agree with him on that. I just love the creature. There's something about it just pops. Like the way, like, I don't know what kind of blue color it is, but something about that shade of blue is just like mesmerizing. And I don't know. I love it. I just love this art, this creature coming out of the computer. And again, just something about slime everywhere. Everything needs to be covered in gross slime. So, yeah.
So actually, side note, as Tim talked about Brandon's art outside of Goosebumps, if you look at Craig White's work, his drastically changed from the Goosebumps era to now. Like I know we talked about it a little bit with him when he was on the podcast, but like for those who haven't, go look at Craig's work too, like what he's doing now compared to what it used to be. It's like a night and day difference. I mean, but I know styles change over time and things like that. And you're still developing style. I feel like when you go through life, but I mean, it's a night and day difference. I love both. Don't get me wrong.
Just being involved with it and knowing a couple of different guys. And then there's people who later on in their career have a breakthrough. It's you wake up one day and shit's different, and all of a sudden it just clicks, and you start doing something that's completely. I went to school with a guy named Jeff Echeverria. He refers to himself as Jeff Etch. When he was in art school, he was a middle of the packer. Nice guy, loves him. And then all of a sudden, I start seeing this incredible artwork on the internet. I'm going, holy, where'd this stuff come from? And it's him. Yeah, he showed none of that back in the days when we were in art school, and now it's incredible stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, another name to track down on the internet.
Definitely. Yeah. Check out, if there's anything you guys take away from today's episode, check out all the other Goosebumps artists and other non-Goosebumps art too, because they do incredible art outside of Goosebumps. And actually, one thing I want to bring up really quick.
Tim just did some Magic the Gathering somewhat recently. Oh, yeah. I've been seeing a lot more of that pop up, which is awesome.
That cover rocks. And even still doing stuff with Stein for like Stuff of Nightmares, the graphic novel series.
Totally fun. Yeah.
Totally good stuff. Like, check out all their non-Goosebumps work, because their Goosebumps stuff is awesome. But I guarantee you that you're going to find a lot of great stuff that is not Goosebumps from these artists. So please check them out. And one more thing I want to say before we move on. I actually believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Craig White was the first artist, time-wise, to do digital art for the Goosebumps series. We talked a little bit about Goosebumps Gold before we started recording, and I know, Tim, you said that when you got to that, you had started doing the digital art. But for these books coming out in 98, he was the first one to do digital artwork. So he was almost a pioneer in that sort of sense for Goosebumps.
Absolutely.
Definitely something.
Yeah, he had said, I believe, if I remember correctly, that he believes why he got the job taken over, like he took over from Mark Nagata during that period, because they wanted to change the art style. And he was one of the very few at the time doing digital when it wasn't brand new on the market. Like, not a lot of artists were doing it yet. Mm-hmm. So I think if I remember right, I think that's why he said he thought he got the job.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, 98 he was the early adapter.
Yep, definitely. But it came from the internet. That's my number 9. Great cover. And it actually, I guess I'll spoil a little bit, it won't be the last cover of his to make it on my list. So you'll see him again soon. Bjorn, what do you got for number 9?
My number 9 is also Craig artwork. It's my favorite of his, like, that he's ever done. And I didn't take the book out because it's like up the top in my special collector's ones. But I have it here. It is All Day Nightmare. To me, that is one of the creepiest Goosebumps covers, like, just of all time.
It's so dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's such a cool cover art, and I mean, I love wolves and things like that, and the colors in this cover art, it's just, I don't know, it really pops to me. I love how you've got kind of like the almost like the it looks almost like it could be 3D, the way that the wolf is like kind of jumping out at you, and I think that looks really cool on a Goosebumps cover. I just imagine what it'd be like if that one had like the raised like front. It would just be so cool. But yeah, and I have to give a quick shout out also to my friend Logan, because that's one of his favorite book cover arts, and we both agreed that this one just, I don't know, there's something about it, and the book itself is great. So it has a great outside and inside. So you get the hook, the 1-2 punch, as Isaiah said before. That's definitely one for me that just it's an awesome cover art. I love it. So that's my number 9.
Awesome, very cool. Tim, what do you got?
All right, so I'm all Brandon all the time, so I'm going to put that right out up front. So Brandon did a remake of Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns of the classic series. And the thing that stood out to me the most, for those who aren't familiar with it, where in my version of it, they had the kids walking down the street towards you with the jack-o'-lanterns on their head. What Brandon did was use a fence, and you only see the jack-o'-lanterns on top of the fence. So it's a great compositional tool that he used. And then in the middle, one of the planks is kicked loose, and you can see the kid busting through, and that he is the jack-o'-lantern is on his head, and he's becoming the creature. The use of color is very cool. The bright orange and yellows of the jack-o'-lanterns, and then using that lime green that we all associate with Goosebumps, and getting that great contrast so that those oranges really pop. So super nice piece.
The addition of like the fire coming out, which I personally like to believe is a reference to the TV show, just the fire coming out of their heads. Yeah. And sort of like the use of vines everywhere too. It just feels more like inhuman in a sense. It is more monstrous, which is I feel what Brandon definitely excelled at is especially when he came to doing the remakes of for the reprint covers, sort of bringing it into the modern.
Dialing it up. Yeah, dialing
exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll be honest right now, this was I feel like I speak for all of us. This was difficult to narrow it down to just 10, and I will say that on Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns was on my initial list before I narrowed it down. So I totally agree on that one. That was a fantastic cover. Joe, what do you got for your number 9?
So we were just talking about how Brandon was really good at like dialing it up, making things a lot more inhuman and monstrous. But me personally, I really love the human elements of the original Goosebumps covers, like humans becoming something else, like that experimentation was like a big part of it for me. And so my number 9 is The Girl Who Cried Monster. I think, as like a horror obsessed kid from like before the internet was like just in your pocket, like the only places for like inspiration for like drawing for me were like horror TV shows like Courage the Cowardly Dog and stuff. And then there was like my school's library. And so your art like had like such a big impact on me. And like this one specifically was very striking to me as a kid, but now as an adult, when I just ranked these in my video, this one had, it was 10 out of 10 artwork. I think that like I think purple and red are two colors that are very difficult to work with together, and you make it look like child's play. I also love that it also feels like a bit of an inversion of Jim Thiessen's Stay Out of the Basement. Like you have the monster opening the door to like the real world, whereas this cover is like the girl opening the door to the monster, and I really love that. I love how detailed everything is. Every single book in the background has texture. Like you can see the hair on his arm in the light, like everything about that. The composition is just brilliant. And I also love, I think the girl in the cover is one of the best drawn. It's beautiful. That painting is so great, and it blows my mind because it's ridiculous. I have to imagine it's ridiculously small on the original painting. Like it is such a small part of the composition, but you make it look so easy. And I've always had such an admiration for this one. So that's my number 9.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Nick, what do you got for your number 9?
Actually, really quick, I am curious now. On that original painting you did, Tim, was like, I know you had more of a blown up size, like you had an actual
so I'm working 20 by 20. So yeah, that girl's face in there is still decent size. It's
3 inches though. That's, like 2-3 inches.
Yeah, that's okay. I can deal with 3 inches. There's times where you back yourself into a corner and you're trying to make it look like somebody. And my whole life is talking about things that are only this big. So, but Yeah, no, that one
I'll
worked
see you,
good. And the other thing that was good about that is the book company was very accommodating when you said, "Hey, here's my design. Would you mind if I use the photographer down the street and hire an actress?" So I hired a kid actor to pose for that. So it's great because these little kids were so talented. They obviously were doing commercials and plays. So you bring them in and you go, "Hey, pretend you're scared," and they could really work it up. And most times you had to go, "Oh, whoa, dial it back a little bit." Where when you're trying to do that with somebody that from home, you take the kid down the street or your own kid and say, "Hey, do this." Usually it comes out a little stiff and you don't get that authentic looking expression. So it was always good to use the pros when I could. Didn't happen a lot with Goosebumps. All the other series it was kind of almost mandatory, but Goosebumps was wild enough where it was like, I think I can get away with it this time.
Well, it really paid off because that is like one of the most like. It is shocking to me how like human the expression is. Like, I mean, it's hard for me to even recognize that it's not a photo. Honestly, like you really captured it amazingly.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Well, the other part of that one is I posed for the dude in the front. And at the time, I had a full head of hair, and that was the biggest joke to everybody was, I painted myself bald, and fuck, I ended up being bald.
You manifested it.
Yeah, I painted the future.
The finger on the monkey's paw curls. No, that is a thing. Is like because I read it came from New Jersey, and there were many times where you modeled yourself for a cover of a Goosebumps.
Usually it's a time factor. It was my ex-wife or it was me. Just because she would do the females, obviously, and I would do the males. And, just because it's like, shit, it's 9:00 at night. I don't have time to go looking for somebody. If I could, sure, that would be great. But a lot of time it just, the schedule didn't allow it. So you did the best you could. And that's always a fun exercise as an artist is, okay, I've got this piece of reference. It's not perfect. And I need it to look, completely different instead of going 1-to-1. Like, I got to make it exactly like that. That's easier than going, this is my starting point. Now I got to twist it just enough that it still retains that realness, but I've turned it into, something completely different.
And I feel like there's one that we're definitely going to get to in terms of that. If I know Bjorn enough, I won't say it right now. I'm sure it's on his list, so we'll get to that when we get to that.
He already did the pose while Tim was talking. We all know what book.
So, but we'll get to that.
We always say that you're the real life buddy from Arete. Kind of.
Sadly, yes.
Nick, what do you got for your number 9 pick?
So I went with a Craig White one. I almost went with Stay Out of the Basement. But I ended up going with I don't know if it'll go there because I don't actually have this book yet. So I don't know, something about like, again, more body horror, and I think Craig really captured that with the cover because I mean it already looks like the kid's either being turned into a plant or possibly that's a clone of a plant, kind of Stay Out of the Basement style. But when I was a kid, I remember seeing this cover and I was like, where are his eyes? And it's not until you really get up close to it that you see the kids looking off in the distance at something. So again, it kind of like plays with your imagination a little bit. Like, what is he looking at? Like, dude's already turned into like a tree or a plant or something. So it's like, what could be more terrifying than that? Maybe he's just looking at his arm that's turning into a branch. I don't know. But at first I thought he just had white eyes, so it was creeping me out until I went and looked at the cover and saw he was looking off. So. But Craig does really well with more like the body horror stuff, and I do have, I believe, I know for sure at least one more Craig on my list, and I've got a Mark Nagata, and the rest are Tim. No surprise there. But yeah, that would be my number 9. I ended up going with Your Plant Food.
Nice,
awesome,
good choice.
Well, time to move on to number 8. And I finally have my first Tim Jacobus art. Now, I just want to say, I love Slappy covers. I love Slappy. one of my favorite Goosebumps characters. But I had to only pick one Slappy cover for my list, and I'm going to go with Living Dummy 2.
Yeah.
I love Living Dummy 2's cover, mostly because of the use of colors. The sort of childlike colors, the pink bed, the green and blue wallpaper and the flowers, the stuffed animals, and then right in the middle you have creepy ass Slappy just sitting there. It's a nice juxtaposition. Probably the best use of juxtaposition in terms of a Slappy cover, because of course the first one you have Slappy, he's like, you know, giving that devilish smile in the dark, but here you have like it's the total opposite. It is like the brightest Goosebumps cover ever.
It is.
It really was that original
and the colors.
62.
Like, this is just this book could shine at night. It's so bright.
It really popped on the shelf too. Like
Definitely.
I do remember the Scholastic Book Fair.
Like, this is one where like I see it on the shelf. I'm
stood
like, I know
out.
exactly what that one is. But I love Living Dummy 2's cover. I love how Slappy is drawn here. I feel like it's like the best sort of drawing of Slappy because he's just sitting there. He's like kind of slumped, but it's almost like he's still alive. Like it's not like he's completely lifeless. That's it, and that's kind of what adds to the creepiness of him. I just love the juxtaposition on this one. It's one of my favorites. It's my favorite Slappy cover. I would say my second favorite is probably Slappy's Nightmare. That'd probably be my second favorite. But Living Dummy 2 is my definitive number one in terms of Slappy, but it is my number 8 on my list. So
Yep. That'll be the most colorful Goosebump book like ever. Like
that's what I'm saying. It's like neon almost.
Yeah,
That's what
but the idea was it was supposed to be a little girl's room, so just started pulling all the punches, make it as as unhorrific as possible. So all the pinks and limes and everything else, and the little bunny doll on the bed too, and having that look scared. And him being the only thing that's wrong in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like what you said, Isaiah. The way how he looks lifeless, like he's dead, but it's almost like his body's just somehow holding himself up. You know, like almost kind of Undertaker when he would like go like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like
it up.
That's it. It's just the way that it's composed, the way that the colors look, and again, just sort of like everything being right except for one thing, and it's the thing that has the most attention on it. Sometimes that's like the most subtle thing. Is just drawing your attention to just one thing in the room. The whole room can seem normal, but there's one thing in it that's not, and that's where your attention is going to be the whole time. I don't know. I feel like it's secretly brilliant in that regard. So that's my number 8. Bjorn, what about you?
Mine goes to Mark Nagata, and as a kid, I was both freaked out but also mesmerized by this cover art. I thought it was just such a cool piece, and I would love to have it just blown up on a canvas. And that is Choose Your Own Adventure, book number 19, Escape from Camp, Run for Your Life.
I love that cover.
Zombie creature things with worms like literally popping out of their heads, like roasting bugs over a fire. And just, I love the background of the purples and the dark colors. It is so menacing. I don't know what it is, but there's something very unsettling about that cover.
Mm-hmm.
And gives the Return to the Living Dead vibes. Kind of with the color scheme.
It is. It really is. It looks like something out of that movie, especially with especially the counselor there with half of his face missing. So there's like skull and worms coming out of it. It's like, it's awesome. Monstrous in its design, but it's a really good one.
It's a beautiful, beautiful cover. It kind of reminds me too, it's hard to see on there, but the body's kind of like stitched together, like. It looks like the arms just got stitching, like holding it together. Almost kind of like Sally from like Nightmare Before Christmas. Like it's kind of got that vibe.
The one on the right, like the green one. Exactly, yeah. The green one on the right almost looks like his face is like being like pulled backward from behind. Like it's almost like, do you know what I mean? Like it almost kind of looks like his eye sockets are being pulled back a little bit.
It does actually.
His
in a
lips are like
completely-
exposing his teeth. I don't know. That's how it seems to me. Like maybe it was stitched a little too far. Like, that makes sense.
That's kind of what it looks like. Yeah, it's being pulled and stitched, and it was just like a little too far. So forever, he just feels like
Hollywood vibes, man.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get Botox.
Hollywood vibes.
But I love camp. I love camp themed Goosebump books anyway. So like, yeah, there's just something about that one that I don't know. It always freaked me out when I looked at it as a kid. I used to just kind of look at it and go, ugh. Something about that one that just makes me feel unsettled. And yeah, the colors. And then as you get older, you start to appreciate everything else, like the colors and the little small details. So yeah, definitely, that's my number 8 for sure.
Awesome. Tim, what do you got?
All right, my number 8 is Brandon's again, and this is Stay Out of the Basement. So there was the first Stay Out of the Basement, which was Jim Thiessen's, which was the hand coming around the door of the plant. Then I got a chance to do a version of it where you got a chance to see the whole dad downstairs in the basement. So then he had to revisit it again. But I don't know how well you can see it, but that's his version of it. I really like what he did with this. He changed the angle on it. There's one thing that he does real well, because you even mentioned it in the Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns, is he can do vines better than anybody else. The vines take on almost muscular tone to them. They seem like they have muscles and or veins attached to them. So the light that he brings into the veins on this one, it's great. And of course, the lighting. If you look at it, he's got some great compositional things going here where it's a series of triangles, and the way he's got the yellow light lit using a triangle, it really grabs your eye. And the thing that you try to avoid in a composition is people eyes wandering too much. You want them to go to a specific spot. They can loop, but what you don't want to do is have a composition where somebody's eye forces and leaves the page. And he does a great job of keeping your attention right where it needs to be.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, 100%. And again, it's going back to the original artwork from Jim Thiessen, but adding more to it. Like it's that homage with his own spin on it. And again, like, don't mean to sound like a broken record, but that is a very, it's like his style almost for Goosebumps. It's like paying tribute, but moving on to the future. A little of the past, a little of the future, more specifically. So, yeah, definitely. I agree. Jello, what do you got for number 8?
Very briefly before I say my number 8, I want to say that it's so fun to like hear the opinions on pieces that you might not have exactly, adored. Like for me personally, I'm a bit of a Slappy hater. So I'm sure my video, you were like the whole time you were like, ugh. But like, I mean, that's all for obviously for laughs, in my videos, I'm like cranking it up a little bit just for fun. But I'm a lover of art. I love everything. I love all this stuff. So it's great to hear some praise for things that I didn't praise in my video. But my number 8 is something we've already talked about, which is it came from the internet. Craig White, this is my favorite piece of his. And I think, you said it great is with all of the Goosebumps stuff and just like the general composition. But for me, I think that this one just has such a rich, it's so dated, but in like the perfect way. Like there's really like the big box computer, everything down to the font that everything is written in, like this like typewriter font, like the blue hazy like technological back end. It is just flawless. Yeah. I think that just like the complete like the artwork is amazing, but just the complete composition is really what brings it all together. Like it is just such a satisfying piece to look at.
It's probably the most 90s.
I'm not really sure if you guys, well, I know Isaiah did, but if you haven't checked out Craig White's page on his Instagram, he's got, and I know who owns it, but that piece he did with Slappy that he did for the first time, which I love his look of Slappy too. I believe he also had on that same image. It was the creature from
the octopus, yeah,
internet
and it was
that's holding
revamped.
Slappy.
Like,
Yeah,
he did like
it looked good.
A revamped version, and it was fantastic. Like, if you love
Yeah, it looked great.
cover, I feel like you'd probably. You know what I'll do? I'll link in the description the post from 90s Kids Library, who joined us in our last episode. He was the one who received that art. I'll leave a link to his Instagram post so you can see it for yourself. It's a great picture. But please do check it out because it's really, really good.
I love, like, I think that, like, it's the thing that's so great about it to me is that obviously just from looking at it, it is so 90s, but also it, like, by design is the most 90s. Like the plot of the story, like something leeching from the internet. Like, most of the time Goosebumps books try to capitalize on some kind of like childhood fear, you know, like somebody in the window of a house on your block, or, you know, a mask sticking to your face on Halloween. Like, those are such childhood fears that most kids feel. And like, I love playing on like the fear of the internet in the 90s and like the early 2000s, and like that, like just seeing that brought to life is just so perfect. Yeah, that's why I love it.
Pre-Y2K, like pre-Y2K, but even like, again, looking on the back cover here, it talks about like the whole thing happens because a computer message flashes on your screen, and then your computer has a virus, and then you got the virus, so you have to.
Is that not so charming? Is that not the most like charming? Yeah, like that's so
like.
Great.
Do you want to call a doctor who wants to eat? You to eat computer chips and dip, or let a hacker take you on a virtual reality trip? Like, it's so 90s, and I love it. It's honestly, it's one of the best Give Yourself Goosebumps books. It really is. It is such a fun one. If I had to recommend any of these, I would say like this one, All Day Nightmare. Like, there's a few, but this is definitely on the list for that one. So you are absolutely correct on that front. It's the most 90s Goosebumps book. Let's put it like that.
Tripping balls.
Nick, what do you got for number 8?
Number 8 is a Tim cover. Don't get enough love. Ghost Beach.
Classic.
Everything about this cover, like, I love, because I'm a big fan of like a lot of the ghost story graveyard. But when you throw in the moon with some shrouded crowds, man, I'm like clouds. I'm just like done. Like, that's it for me. But the color palette I love too, because I mean, obviously you have that nighttime. So what's the best way to illuminate something at night with the moon? You know, because most of the time you illuminate something, it's still very dark and not very visible. But somehow the colors that were chosen for this, it still makes it pop, but you know it's still nighttime. Like, it's really a really great color palette. But I love the shrouded ghost with the cemetery. I mean, it's a very Halloween vibe. I mean, the book I actually really enjoyed. The episode, it sucked, but you know, that is what it is. But the cover, I mean, and the story itself, fantastic. Like, I absolutely love this one.
I like.
You'll find another one of my tops that has another Tim art with a moon. I don't know how you do it, Tim. All the stuff with the moon, but I love it all.
It's a great thing to throw in a painting anytime. It's a great light source. I spent a ton of time just making that little wave break off to the right hand side. You know, least important part of it, but I had just got a book on how to paint waves, and you know, the guy who did nothing but seascapes, and I'm going, oh yeah, that backlit thing where the wave becomes a little bit translucent or transparent, and it's more of that, again, that lime green that we all know associates with Goosebumps. I was like, oh yeah, we're doing that, and I've used that sense of color in waves. Anytime there's a wave, I'm doing that trick.
100%. Absolutely. All right. Time to move on to number 7.
Color choice.
This is one we've already talked about. I'm going to add my 2 cents onto it. Another Craig White. It's All Day Nightmare. Bjorn is absolutely correct. This one is such an eye popper. I mean, you just look at it. It's just the werewolves, like, just leaping at you. And you have like the claw marks in the tree. It's such a perilous situation to be in. And it's Did we spoil one of yours coming up, Nick?
It's not surprising that this is probably on most, if not all, of our lists for Craig White.
That's true, but
again, werewolves, and yeah,
it's
fantastic.
It's just about the composition. It's like it's a super well use of like nighttime colors, because you have obviously like the moon, I'm assuming, is the light source coming from over here, but everything's still so shrouded in darkness. And then you have the eyes on the werewolf, like just that beady orange. It's such a ferocious looking cover. Honestly, I could see this one scaring me as a kid, 100%. So at this point, I would just be repeating everything Bjorn said. But yeah, All Day Nightmare, that is my number 7. And
it was the last book too, like number 42. Like, and it's just it's like almost like he thought this is the last one, so let's just bring it home. And oh man, he really did with that one. It's beautiful. Like I remember that was at my Scholastic Book Fair when I was 6, because that book came out, what was it, like 2000, right at the beginning. And yeah, that was like that was the newest Goosebump book out, like the last one, when I started collecting. So I remember seeing that, and it was one of the first ones I ever got, which has now become one of the rarest ones. So yeah, it's a great book. Okay. Number 7. All right. So everything on the rest of my list is Tim's. I kind of got through the others. Now we're like, okay. But no, I'm going way back to the very beginning with this one. Welcome to Deadhouse.
Nice.
That is definitely my lucky 7. There's just something very ominous about it. This was obviously the Goosebump book that was like the most gory, I would say. And there's just something about the cover. I mean, obviously it's the original, but the thing that really catches my eye every time I look at it is the dude in the window there. Yeah. And it's like the colors, like orange. It's like there's oranges and reds and just, yeah. And I love how you just got the door flap just kind of opening, like, come on in. And it gives me like Monster House vibes in a way. All you have to do is add some like eyes here or something. But yeah, I love this book. And obviously it was the first one you ever did for Goosebumps, Tim. So
yeah, absolutely the first one. And what is interesting, you pointed out the guy in the window. When I'm at the cons now, I have the bigger prints and I sell that one. And at least once a weekend, somebody will go, holy shit, there's a guy in the window. I have never seen him before. I've been looking at this cover for 20 years, and that's the first time I've seen him. So that's cool.
That's kind of what you want, though, right? Like you want it to be a little bit of like a...
Absolutely. Like... Yeah, he was... The crack in the door was where I wanted you to look, not him peeking around the window. That should have been second. Mm-hmm. If at all, which is great.
I was going to say, for this guy, not at all.
It's just beautiful. I don't know. There's just something about it. I mean, obviously it's the original book, but yeah, I don't know. It's a very, I don't know, nostalgic. I just love it. This is one that I always come back to, and I'm always trying to look at all the little details. Like maybe there's something else hidden in here that I just can't see. I kind of feel like that guy from Mallrats. It's like trying to look for the sailing boat in the painting. Oh, can't find it. Oh, it's a sailing boat. Like, I get that when I look at this book for some reason. Like, maybe there's something hiding, like, in one of the other windows, and I just can't see it. And, like, maybe if I put a light on it, like, I don't know. But
yeah, no, I wasn't. I didn't do that on the regular. I wish if I had more time, I would love to do a lot more Easter egg, drop stuff in, hide things. But nah, I've had plenty of people go, oh, I see this in there. I go, well, you shouldn't have smoked so much weed before you walked up to the table. So it's not there. It's definitely not
This is
there.
not a Rorschach test. There's nothing there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's the great thing about it, too, is that, like, that one, and honestly, a few of the other early Goosebumps books were, like, they were a lot more subtle. I think people forget is like there weren't like huge bombastic monsters on them. Like Deadhouse and Stay Out of the Basement and Monster Blood were like very, very subtle covers. It was more intriguing in a sense because you're like, oh, this big creepy house, like, well, what's in it? Like that sort of thing. And sometimes subtlety will get you a long way.
Yeah. And again, we were all kind of feeling it out. It wasn't, it wasn't clear what we were doing. For all I knew at the beginning, there was going to be more stories about the dead house. So it was like, well, let's just make it, yeah, like you say, make it a little bit eerie, but don't pull out all the stops. As we got down the road, then we threw everything and the kitchen sink at it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. We nearly got a sequel. We nearly got one.
Yeah.
Almost did, but
maybe someday.
Not meant to be. But Tim, what do you got for your number?
All right, number 7 for me is Who's Your Mummy? Oh, what I like about this one is it has that thing that RL used to always talk about, where there not only are we trying to be, scary, but there's a little bit of humor mixed into this thing. So the mummy's getting ready to ring the doorbell and go in the house. Totally ridiculous. It's not supposed to happen. But again, what makes this piece nice is his use of light. He uses the crack of the door around him, bright light behind him. He's silhouetted off. And again, red eye every time. You can put a red eye on anything, and I'm going to love it. And people will always point it out.
And one thing I want to bring up too is that mummy is like super sickly looking. Like the thing about how people usually draw mummies is that they're basically just, wrapped up people. Like I haven't seen many mummy drawings that are different than like maybe a little bit like scrawny, but you know what I mean? But that mummy in that picture is like essentially bones. Like there is
absolutely
essentially nothing going on down there.
And the other thing he does here is exactly what he was doing with the vine work in the Stay Out of the Basement, where he's taken so much extra effort on the way the wrappings go around the mummy, and the way they fall and the way they're loose. So yeah, I mean, it's incredible the way he's handled the cloth.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. Jello, what do you got for number 7?
So my number 7 is volume 24, Phantom of the Auditorium. And I just want to throw Tim a question before I talk about this one, because in my video, I sort of peg you as like a background artist, but I wanted to ask you, do you think that you fall under an umbrella like that? Like, do you think of yourself as a character artist or a background artist? Or like, for me, your strengths, your artistic strengths in perspective and like just everything that has to do with the background of a piece has always been like that was always what drew me to your art. So I guess I wanted to ask like what you thought.
Yeah, I always like the overall feel. The setting the environment is as important, if not more important, than the image itself. My earlier stuff was way more. Here's a whole new world, and my main characters were definitely smaller in my early fine art stuff. So again, another artist, everybody plug it in. I've mentioned his name a million times, is Roger Dean. He's this incredible landscape artist, surrealistic artist, not really a landscape artist, but the minute you look at it, you're going to go, man, these are incredible places, and I wish I could go there, but they only exist between that guy's ears. So I'm glad he can pull them out and get them on paper, and we can at least visit them two-dimensionally.
That's exactly how I feel about your art, honestly, because me personally, I'm a character artist. Like my whole life, I've always loved character design. Like that's always been my specialty. And so that's the reason that Phantom of the Auditorium is here, is because that design is far and away my favorite character design in all of Goosebumps. I think it is just so striking. I love the background is so simple. This is just really you showing your strengths, that you're not just a landscape artist, not just an environmental artist, but like that's what really drew me in, because that's the stuff that I can't do, like as a character artist, that's the stuff that's super inspiring to me, is your backgrounds. But I love the Phantom's design, like the stark white mask popping off of his like rich, like dark skin. It's flawless. It's definitely my favorite character design.
And special shout out to the artwork that you did for Goosebumps the musical adaptation of Family.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, we revisited that. That was a that was cool too, because that one went up one of those big giant plectrons on Times Square, and it was multi-stories tall. So great guys who put that together. Very enthusiastic about their play, their product, and they had a lot of success with that. They took it over to England, and it's now making its way in the second tier of the way plays go, where I've heard it being done in a couple other cities right now.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
To Australia, please.
There you go, right?
Nick, what do you got for your number 7 pick?
Oh no, I already showed it. I went ahead and just, you know what? I just went ahead and did it because you were on it already. I was like, you know what? Bjorn's talked about it. You've talked about it. Screw it. Boom. Here's mine too, because that was my number 7.
And so, I guess ditto for all that. Then good. I would assume.
Good. Yeah. I'll save you some time.
Well,
next,
let's move on to number 6 then. So a little bit ago, we were talking about subtlety in Goosebumps cover arts, and this one was brought up not in anybody's pick, but just as an example. But my number 6 is "Stay Out of the Basement" by Jim Thiessen. As we brought up Jim Thiessen, he did this cover art, and then there was another cover art in the original series, Stanislaw Fernandez, who did "Be Careful What You Wish For," the original one. So those are 2 other artists to take a look at in terms of Goosebumps, even though they only did 1 book. But this one is iconic, like 100% iconic. And I think it is probably the best use of subtlety, because you have the hand coming out of the basement, and while you can definitely tell there's leaves on it, you don't really know, like, is it a man or is it a plant? It's tapping into that subtlety that makes you want to read and figure out, what is this thing?
It's both.
It's fantastically creepy. Like, I remember this was a cover art that made me, like, scared. Like, I didn't want to watch. I remember this cover art was on the VHS tape for the episode, and I saw it in the library, and I was just like, I do not want to watch that because I'm going to be scared. So and
now your parents are going to be living in the basement, so that's weird.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to tell you to stay out of the basement.
That'll be your hand coming out.
Because they don't already. No, and also it's nice because it's just the hand. You don't see, like, an eye.
You didn't give anything away, right?
Yeah,
it's all in your imagination. What's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you imagine it. Sometimes it's better for what a kid can imagine what something is going to be.
Not just a kid. I mean, the unknown that's the best design. That's the best character design for a horror villain there is no design. That's like by and large.
Less is more.
Yeah. And Tim, if I can ask you really quick, you mentioned that you did your version of this for the reprint in, like, the 2000s.
Right.
And it was basically the design of the dad in the basement. What was it like, you were the one for once doing your take on a pre-established cover. Was it difficult to sort of follow that up?
I was. What was great is there was no reason for them to ask me to redo those 2 covers that you just mentioned, the 2 that I didn't do on the first go round. Stay Out of the Basement and Be Careful What You Wish For. And it was only an art director just going, you know what? You should really do these 2 so you can say you did them all. They didn't really need them. And I hadn't done a Goosebumps in a number of years. It was kind of like, I'm semi-retired from the Goosebumps series, and to have them come back and go, yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out. That was a lot of fun. It was great to revisit them because I hadn't done them in a while. No, it wasn't hard or difficult. It was exciting. It was like, cool. One more time, get to come out of the bullpen, throw a couple curveballs and see what happens. So yeah,
return to form.
That's it.
And get to, as you said, get to complete the set. Now you can say you did all 62.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. But yep, that's my number 6. It's an iconic one, and it's one that I've gone from really being scared of to super admiring. Funny how that all comes around. So Stay Out of the Basement is my number 6. Bjorn, what do you got?
My number 6, we're going a little different now, different territory. It's still Tim's art, but I absolutely adore the Fright Light Edition cover art. I love this so much. As a kid, it wasn't just like, I mean, obviously the cover art was so beautiful, but like it was the whole package deal that you get with this. But yeah, I used to stare at this cover all the time. And I used to love, like, I had a treehouse as a kid as well.
Oh.
So the whole them sitting in the treehouse reading a Goosebump book together while he's got the flashlight in his mouth, the dog, it's just like, this book is just, I don't know what it is. And obviously your use of the red Converse just sealed the deal for me. But yeah, this to me was just such an amazing cover. And it includes 3 books that are in my top 10 favorite books. You have Camp Nightmare, Jelly Jam, and Ghost Camp. So yeah, there's just, I don't know, I absolutely love this cover. I mean, I still haven't been able, oh yeah, the owl that's hidden in the little,
there he is. That's right. I forgot.
You'll miss it if you don't really study the cover, you'll miss it. But yeah, this is definitely my number 6 pick. I love the Fright Light Edition cover.
Yeah, I like the treehouse too, because when I grew up, if you had anything that you want, our houses were small. You had to go build an outbuilding on your own. We were building buildings, whether when we were young, it was just to put our stuff in. And then when you got older, that's where you were putting your Playboy magazines. But you had to build your own structures. And I built some awful tree houses that thank God we didn't die. No building skills whatsoever. So that one was a throwback to some of our earlier ones that looked like they were coming down.
Mm-hmm. So is there some Playboys hidden in there that I haven't seen?
You got to wait for him to grow up a little bit. Yeah, too young there.
It came from the internet, except instead of a stack of Goosebumps books, it's a stack of Playboys.
It could be.
Oh no, he can't get much older. He's bones.
Because I always loved seeing your interpretation of Curly, like on the non-Goosebump books. Yeah. I mean, obviously these are Goosebump books, but anytime you did the Tales to Give You or Goosebumps or like Monster Editions, but like his expression almost could be like maybe the Playboy.
That is a Playboy. Yeah.
I got you. He's buried in there. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's like how they used to do, when you had your book, but then inside you had your comic or whatever. You just got a Playboy in there.
Oh, there's a joke right there. I'm trying to think of.
Oh yeah, no, he's got a boner. I thought about it. I was just like, you know what? Like, too on the nose. Too on the nose.
I missed it. I didn't even see that coming. That's terrible.
And I just got to say, I again, we don't know any of our lists going into this, but I just got to say I'm so glad we got some Curly representation in there, because I feel bad I don't have any Curly books. I was debating on it. I had a few in my initial list, but they were eliminated in my top 10. But the Curly ones are so good. Tales of Goosebumps, the Monster Editions. And
I like the ones that were even off, not even on books, the ones that were the calendar covers and the postcard books, and the one where he's riding the scooter in France, and those were ones where we really just lost our minds on what we could do with them, and but that was always a fun assignment. And except for the calendars, it was always a different format, where when you're doing a book, every Goosebumps book, it's a square, always the same format. So anytime we broke that format and I was able to do a different composition, that was always cool.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I'd say possibly my favorite is the first Monster Edition, because it's them in the bed and they're like screaming, and then you have the dog screaming too.
Yeah.
That was always fun.
I love all the Curly covers. I always did as a kid. And I always used to remember but as a kid, when I was like 5, I used to read the book and be like, but wait, there's nothing about Curly in here. Like, what the hell? Because obviously
you would wish that they just did a Curly book already. Like, he's already on any other stuff. Yeah. Throw him a bone.
I wish he stuck around as the mascot. I mean, yeah, Slappy became the mascot, but Curly was like the crypt keeper for Goosebumps. Yeah, and it was really awesome to have that.
It really worked in the 90s. Yeah, it just worked so well back then, 100%. But
he was all over advertising merch and T-shirts. I mean, wearing one right now from Cavity Colors. They brought him back. But I mean, Curly was great. I loved seeing him on all that stuff, and it just made it, I think, that much more special. Because again, like if you liked Tales from the Crypt, that very much felt like he was our crypt keeper for Goosebumps, and you knew the stories inside were going to be, the creepy stories, in that case, the camp stories. And
I was always more of a triple header. I love that design. Yeah, that design was always like the Goosebumps mascot to me. It was like I just loved that character.
Him, Lefty, and Righty.
Yeah.
Lefty and Righty.
They need to make
every time I'm with you guys, it brings back forget all that shit. Yeah, Lefty and Righty.
They need to bring back those
Lefty,
three
Righty,
guys.
and Slim.
Curly's making a bit of a comeback. Why don't we get Lefty, Righty, and Slim?
They could be next.
Yeah, I mean, but when we were doing this top 10 list, it was not just a matter of looking at all the the original 62 or Series 2000. It was like I was looking at every book, including like the Monster Edition covers and everything. And then I remembered how much I loved the Fright Light cover art, like as a kid, and it brings like so many memories seeing that. Because I remember the first time I got it, it had the flashlight and it worked because it was like probably 2001, so it was still working. And I remember like it's that fond memory, I just love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6.
Tim, what do you got for number 6?
All right, number 6, I've got The Wizard of Ooze.
Ooh.
So,
that was a good one.
Another one of Dorland's texture items where he really gets the texture going on the ooze of the body. The red eyes, again, can't beat that. And then he's using the green and all the lights that are flashing all over the place, the lightning, however you want to call it, the magic. And I like the tight cropping on it as well. Super piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brandon does well with ooze too. That one and everyone he did with Monster Blood was really, really well done. I'm particularly fond of Monster Blood for Breakfast from Horrorland. That was a really good one.
I feel like I'm the only person out there that like is totally in love with Monster Blood 4. I mean, I talk about it in my video, but man, I love that one. It's not on here, but
it's one of my favorites too.
I'm the biggest defender of that one.
It's a fun cover art. It's not a good. I don't think it's a good book, but it is a fun cover art.
Absolutely,
really good cover art.
The book just stinks.
That was one of the ones in the OG series where you're like, man, this book is terrible, but I love that cover art. So it kind of cancels it out.
That was me with the Barking Ghost. Like, I love the cover art, but the story.
That's the thing. You know what, too? It could act as a hook, but it could also be like it's like, at least that's good.
I think Monster Blood 4 is the perfect place to end the original series because, like Tim was talking about, Goosebumps is not just supposed to be scary. It's also supposed to be funny, and that image is like by far one of the funniest ones.
The big lips.
I like the one in the background sucking on the
shower. He's blowing up. Yeah, he's blowing up like a balloon. Yeah,
I love that cover.
Oh man, what do you got for your number 6 there, Jallo?
Mine was really, really close. So I want to give a quick honorable mention to The Night in Screaming Armor by Mark Nagata for Forgive Yourself Goosebumps. Because if you, I'm just telling you, I mean, as an artist, if you were asked to draw a horse in a dynamic pose wearing a suit of armor, ridden by a guy in a different suit of armor with like a mechanical bird flying around. That's like a nightmare. That is such a nightmare, and he makes it like you can just so clearly see his vision. It is like it's very yeah. It's very like boy coded. Like the bright red armor on the white horse. It feels like a Lego or something. But my actual number 6 is The Creepy Creations of Professor Shock. This is not a book that I saw as a kid anywhere, but like scrolling through them for this video, there was no other cover that caught my eye as much as this. I think the perspective is what it is cranked to 11 or 12. It is ridiculous just the way that this it's like a fisheye lens, and the whole robotic thing. I also love the detail is just ridiculous. Do you guys know do you guys know the I Spy books?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
like this cover gives me that. It evokes that feeling in me. You know, it's just something that you can just stare at for 15 minutes before you even start reading the book, and that's like the best compliment I could give one of these covers. You know,
Absolutely. Well, it took me a while to even realize that he's missing the entire bottom half of his body. One day I just looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute, where's the other half of his body?
Also, I think of that whole series, like with the holographic covers, I think that is the most deserving of the holographic cover. Like it really, like it's just ridiculous how much that cover pops. It's stellar.
Well, it's metallic.
That was very 90s. Those mosaic kaleidoscopy looking.
Yeah, if you can't tell, I love just I love that this feels like Goosebumps feels like a period piece. Like that is the way that it should. Like it is perfect for this era. It defined. It is part of like what people think of when they think of like the look of the 90s in a way. At least for me, like it is like you took nostalgia and like put it into a painting. Like it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Definitely. Nick, what do you got for number 6?
His honorable mention is my number 6, Knight in Screaming Armor. Easily my favorite Mark Nagata piece, and I'm very excited to talk with him about it when he comes on. And I don't know like his earlier work, but it's kind of crazy because when you look at like when Give Yourself Goosebumps started, I know, Tim, you did the first one, but I honestly thought like it was very close in design, like until it took me a minute to look at it and see their slight differences. I don't know if he took inspiration from your art continuing Goosebumps, and I think we've talked about it on here a little bit before he finally kind of like
found his
stride to do his own kind of art. And I feel that really shined with this one. No pun intended with this cover being ridiculously shiny. Even outside the plastic it's in. But yeah, every detail from the armor to the knight, the horse. I mean, I absolutely love the cover. And again, Moon. I don't know what it is with Moon covers, but for me, it's great. And it always made me think of like Scooby-Doo, if you remember the knight.
Yeah, it does look very
like it really like it looked like a Scooby-Doo villain to me too when I was a kid. So I was like, this is fantastic.
It does actually.
So
I'll quickly say about Mark
it was hitting a lot of
Nagata.
check mark boxes for me in terms of a scary kids book. So
we talked a lot about
very, very
what Craig White and Brandon Dorman succeed at. I think something that Mark Nagata succeeds at is the goofy nature of the Goosebumps books. I think his covers are I mean this is a compliment, the goofiest Goosebumps covers.
He really hams it up in like a great way.
Exactly. Like as we mentioned before, Beware the Purple Peanut Butter. I mean, that is pure goofy.
Yeah, that's a prime example
right there. I love it. But like just the way he like draws, like even like Screaming is still like inherently goofy. I remember like Under the Magician's Spell, you have like a kid sawed in half and you have the kid screaming, but it's like it's like a very silly scream. So I think that's something he really excelled at was making the horror like a little sillier, which is what Goosebumps was supposed to be. It was supposed to be silly, scary stories. So I feel like that's something that he definitely succeeded at.
There was only one piece of merchandise to come out of the Give Yourself Goosebumps books. There's one piece of merch, and you know what? Anyone guess what it is? And it's actually based on
it's based on the first one.
Oh yeah, it's a
alligator stapler.
The alligator.
Yep.
They actually
They made a it was a stapler, right?
Stapler, yeah.
Yeah, they made a stapler of that purple alligator. So
the only thing that exists that's like, and they almost did a minifigure because on the back of those minifigures, and they only released like 20 out of the 40. That is one of the little alligators as well. So it's like we almost got a little figure as well. But yeah, it's sad they didn't do more stuff like relating to the Give Yourself Goosebumps.
Well, speaking of Give Yourself Goosebumps, and it's time to go into our top 5. Actually, I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to Curse of Camp Cold Lake because I booted it out because all this talk about Craig White really made me be like, you know what? Because again, this was so hard to put together. and I was going to put this one on here initially. Then I said, no, I want to put Camp Cold Lake on there because that one is really good. But you know what? Screw it. Check-in Time at the Dead End Hotel is my number 5. Objectively, it's not as good as All Day Nightmare, or the what was the other one? Or It Came From the Internet. I forgot about it for a second. But again, this was one of the first ones I ever saw, and the reason I love this is the green, like the green skeleton. I think Craig even said himself, like, he didn't want to do white skeletons. If he ever did a skeleton, it was going to be neon green. This one is just so good. I love the skeleton's scowl. I love him handing you the key. It's just so good. I can't even really explain exactly why I love this one more than the other ones I've mentioned at this point. Maybe
I think it just screams Goosebumps. Like, I really think that the green skeleton especially is really in line with like the no red policy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just feels like it just breathes Goosebumps.
Yeah.
It matches the logo.
Skeleton has like long fingernails. Like, I don't know if you can see. The skeleton has long
That's Craig's interpretation of Curly.
Exactly.
He's Curly.
It could be. That's Curly's. That's Curly.
And the head position is great. It gives him a whole different attitude.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I love what he
I
did.
tell you what, like, that is one thing, like, when I was younger and trying to get more into art before I went to college for it and everything, hands are so hard to draw for me. And oh my gosh, and the positioning, how it looks, to make it look real without looking too goofy or like a complete Picasso piece where it's just like a complete jacked up hand, or multiple hand pieces. You think there's multiple there, but it's really just supposed to be one. Hands are so tough, man. Like, I almost just wanted to like hire somebody else to do the hands for me, and I'll do everything else.
I can draw hands. I learned that from Spawn.
Hired.
It is. It's super difficult. Then you find that you start doing. You'll get your favorite hand positions and start to use the same ones over and over again because you know they're effective, and you tweak them a little bit. But you go, okay, do number 5 again. Yeah, number 5 will work great.
Yeah, definitely. But yep, check-out time at the Dead End Hotel is probably one of my favorite Give Yourself books, and I'm gonna put it at number 5 on my list. Sorry, Camp Cold Lake, but you got won out by nostalgia. So unfortunately, this is the last non-Jacobus artwork in my list. So all
the top ones,
definitely. But that's my number 5. Lauren, what do you got?
This was hard, man, because like top 5, this is really getting into the difficult. Like, what the hell is my top 5 all-time Goosebumps covers? Now, this one, as a kid, I didn't like looking at because it scared me a little too much. It has probably one of the most freakiest looking faces that you have ever like, Tim. And it was Special Edition 1 cover.
There you go.
That face freaked the shit out of me as a kid. I loved it, but I also hated it so much. I don't know what it was, but it's so freaky, like some banshee looking thing. I don't know. But but then obviously I've gotten older now. It's become one of my favorites. I love it so much. And they actually brought out a skateboard with this design on it. I don't know if you've seen him, but like it's a full on like skateboard that they brought out using that design. So but no, I love the use of colors. I love this sort of house. It gives me like Dracula vibes in a way, like the house on the edge of the cliff kind of thing. But yeah, there was something about this ghost that just, I don't know, freaked me out as a kid. So I definitely had to put this one at number 5.
Tim is a ghost.
A couple things.
I feel like Goosebumps Special Edition love.
A couple things. The house that's in there was one of the 3 rejected one of the 2 rejected sketches for Welcome to Dead House. That could have been the first cover, but they liked the door cracked. And that character in there is the first version of Curly. And they didn't like it at all. You know, they didn't know that if it was a guy or a girl. They hated his long hair because back then, rock and roll hair, man, that's what it was all about. And then the fact that it was a ghost limited the stuff that we could do with him. And, Curly was going to do everything from riding a bicycle to playing hockey to doing, all kinds of stuff. So cut off, gave him a butch haircut, turned him into a skeleton. And, but that's Curly's cousin right there on the cover.
It's Curly's cousin. Oh my God.
I kind of retract my statement a little bit. I said when they were talking about who that is, it's like, oh, that ghost is totally Tim. I was like, because you kind of had your facial features, not quite as scary in real life, but but the long locks. If you all go look at Tim's old photos, he had a mane. It was gorgeous.
It was kind of like
it was comical. It was comical. It was so long.
Tim, what do you got? Number 5.
I got number 5. I got the 5th grade zombie.
Ooh,
the great one.
So what I like about this one is he's really leaning into the realism of these kids and messing with their faces. They look way more realistic than the other stuff that he's done. The other stuff was, leaning towards that fantasy cartoonish looking stuff that, I had also done. This one goes dark. And if you were a 7-year-old kid and this was the first Goosebumps you picked up, that might be the last one you pick up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The faces are all eaten away and like stuff like that.
It's wicked evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
This could easily be an adult horror book. You could easily get away with doing this for the 18 and over market.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree.
For sure.
Especially the gassy,
and that's true. Like normally, like we see, like we were talking about Red Eyes, but I like in this one that like he went more yellow, and they actually had not just yellow. They actually did have their iris and everything else, but they're like still that green color. So
which he picks up from the background too. That yellow. All nicely done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Jello,
I thought it was great. And I like the little girl's arm is actually about to rip off too. I kind of was surprised he kind of got away with that.
And her neck is wrong. Her neck seems to be almost broken as well. So
that's why I love when Goosebumps does zombie designs. When Goosebumps does zombie designs, like they're gnarly for a kid's book. Like they don't shy away from the gore of it all, in a sense.
One in particular,
talk about very shortly,
very gory,
which is on my list as well.
But Jello, what do you got for number 5?
So I went more quintessential for my number 5, and my number 5 is One Day at Horrorland. I think that honestly, I could talk all day about this. In my video, I go on and on and on. But one thing I didn't say in my video that I think I've noticed is that One Day at Horrorland really appeals to me as an artist because I think it looks so fun to make. Like while I'm looking at that piece, I can almost like see your process, Tim. Like I don't know, like I love all of the texture work, the text, like painting text. That much of text is like not an easy thing to do, but it's rewarding. And like the textures that you were able to pull off in the ground and the tree. That's the best tree in Goosebumps. That's the best tree in Goosebumps by far. I love the colorway, the cotton candy colorway, the pink and blue. And I love the background, like the sunset over the park is like just the lines. I'm a line art. I mean, I'm a character artist, and I'm also like that's my favorite part of the process is line art. I'm a digital art creator, and like all of those little lines on the Ferris wheel and all of the scaffolding under the roller coaster and stuff. Like it looks so fun. Like it invokes joy in me as an artist just to see this piece.
Mm-hmm. And it was fun for me because you do the sketches, you have your concepts, and they're small. And, I knew I wanted to have something going on in the background there. And that you don't get a chance to make that happen until the painting's big and you now have a significant area to play with in there. And like you say, get all the scaffolding in, get all the tents, tear up the edges of the tent. And,
yes.
make it a place where you're just going, I'd like to go there, but maybe not. Maybe not.
And a great thing about that artwork, it acts as the hook, is that the park is not the focus of the centerpiece. It's like right off in the background. The focus is the sign and like just a part of the horror's head. So again, it makes you want to read to see like what is the park about? What are these creatures? It's genius.
And what a great way to really open it. Like the start of the book, as a kid, I'm sure this is everybody else that read these books too, but you put yourself in the shoes of the main character, and so for the first experience that you have with the world of this story being, looking out at the gate and the entrance, that's really like thematic, and it really just it enhances the story in a way, because that's your image right when you start the story is you going to Horrorland,
Mm-hmm.
It's like the one of the very few Goosebump books that I find is on like everyone's top 10, even if it's like number 10, like it's on everyone's list, like just the story, the cover art, whatever it is. Like it's like a quintessential, like you said, Goosebumps book, story, everything. Horrorland became its own whole series. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
very important to the overarching Goosebumps like narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I always imagine a Goosebumps movie being centered in Horrorland with all the monsters. Do you know what I mean? Like, but they're in Horrorland. Like that's how I always imagined like a Goosebumps film or a TV show, something. Like it focuses in the park itself, but you have all the monsters there.
And not to mention, it was like the first real big geographical location in the Goosebumps franchise. Like everything was more focused on an individual monster or monsters. Like here, it was a whole location,
a whole rose gallery as well of creatures.
Yeah, the Horrorland horrors. But Horrorland itself was also like a big part of that. So I mean, it's no wonder it got so much attention in the Steven Spielberg game, but also like in the late 2000s, the series, you had video games, you had all kinds of stuff like that. So it's no wonder at all. It was a big template for things to do with Goosebumps.
Board game.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Mm-hmm. A few really good browser games. That was my shit as a kid.
Enter Horrorland. I was in that boat too, man.
that was honestly like that game is what got me into the Goosebumps fan club, and in turn, like the fandom surrounding it, not just the books, but like the community, And so I have a real love for Horrorland.
Yep, absolutely. But it's a great cover art too. So I like I said, definitely quintessential. I agree with you on that one. Nick, what do you got for number 5?
I'm sure it probably would have been on anybody else's list too. And I almost excluded it. Like I said, we had a lot of good ones to go through, but ended up going with Night of the Living Dummy. There's just, we can talk about this one. Everybody has, so I won't say much. You know why this is a good cover. Let's be real. I don't have to sit here and talk about it really. I mean,
demonic.
Look at that
demonic.
face. Look at that face. It's the only face a mother could love for me because I put it on my list. Mm-hmm. So, but terrifying. And I still love the fact that, again, it goes with the green eyes. Instead of, I think in the book they were blue, but
in blue in the book,
I think green works better. I think that totally makes the rest of his face pop with the darker color, with the dark hair, and even the little bit of the light you have in the background here. So it's kind of like he's coming out of the dark. And I love that. That to me is like a terrifying thing. It makes me think of like Michael Myers in the 78 Halloween film when Laurie's there and he's in the room and you just slowly start to get a little light on Myers' face so you can see that. That's terrifying. Like more so than if he's just like right there and you can see him, just that face coming out of the dark. Yeah, because I think it goes very well with another child fear and a lot of adult fears too, I guess. Of it's not that you're afraid of the dark; it's you're afraid of what's in the dark,
what's inside.
So that's showing you what's in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Puppets.
So very good cover.
Something about it, yeah. The green
After puppets. Metallica's in there. That's who's in there. That's Metallica.
You created him, like you created him with that, and like it introduced, to obviously how many books that followed, and like, yeah, it's just
Yeah, and that one just fell out because the ventriloquist dummies are already creepy. Even the ones that aren't trying to be creepy, they already are. So my lift was to not overdo it. It's already happening. Just mess with his eyes a little, and like you said, bring him out of the darkness, and we're done.
Well, and I would be remiss if I didn't show this off really quick. This is one of the recently released Slappy masks from Trick or Treat Studios, and it is essentially pretty on one for one with the original cover. I would
absolutely
for everyone.
That's cool. I haven't seen that yet.
Yep, and then really quick,
they did. So they did Your Curly, but like the revamped 2000 version. Yep, Haunted Mask, Mud Monster, and Prince Corru the Mummy.
Here's the Mud Monster,
which
I think is probably the most accurate.
Yeah, that's good. The mouth is right.
Yep. So it's like perfect. But I had to show these off because these are probably, as I said, the most accurate one-to-one with the original covers.
Yeah,
they really took their time to make those look the way they do. So had to show them off really quick. So now we're gonna move on to number 4. This next one is another one that's a personal favorite of mine. I'm not too crazy about the book itself, but I really love the cover art for The Blob That Ate Everyone. Again, goopy, slimy things are a must for me, and I always love this one. This was one where like I saw this in a catalog, and I'm like, I have to read that one because you just see the massive monster. And actually, fun thing, if I'm not mistaken, this is the only one in the original series that is completely in broad daylight. Every other one is at nighttime or at sunset or at dusk. This is the only one in complete daylight. And I think that kind of helps it because it's like you have this completely suburban neighborhood. Totally might be something that the reader might be living in. But then you have this monstrous thing, and the tongue is the best part. The best part is the enormous tongue just laying out over this pile of car parts and bicycles, and then just drooling all over the place. I love it. It's scary, but it's silly. It's the perfect blend, and I don't know. I feel like I'd be rambling if I went any further. I love this cover. It made me want to read the book, like probably the most besides my next pick. So probably the second most that I really wanted to read the book to see what happens. But Blob That Ate Everyone, that's my number 4. I love it so much. One of my favorites.
If I'm not mistaken, this is one of Tim's favorites, right? I've heard you go on record to say that was one of the ones.
I like that one. Fun. Yeah, because when I got done with the sketch, I was going, man, that just looks like a baked potato. In black and white, there was nothing. There was nothing going on there. I was like, ooh, this isn't really working. So the ones that kind of come around at the last minute, and once you start putting the right colors, a little bit of vein, a little bit of shine on there, make it look wet, then all of a sudden I was like, okay, yeah, we got it.
Looks like the surprising Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. The surprising ones are always the ones that, the art that exceeds your expectations is always the stuff that feels special because you're like, wow, I saw it through and, it really makes it feel worth it.
The other side of it is I got no choice. There's no turning back.
Yeah.
Hopefully it goes good. Sometimes the car goes off the road and you got to walk home. So,
yeah. And I don't know if this is on your list, Tim, but Brandon Dorman did a great version of this one for that reprint.
It was darker. It was at night, I think, or sunset.
The reprint one was at night. It was in front of a grocery store, which was pretty fitting. Yeah. But I had to give a shout out to that because that was a reprint one where I was like, that is fantastic.
Could have just changed the title, The Blob That Ate Everyone. At night.
Yeah, at night. Like SpongeBob, yeah. Jordan, what do you got number 4?
My number 4, okay, so we're getting into some Series 2000 now because I've mentioned this how many times, how when I was a kid, they were the ones that were the most recent. So they were the most attainable ones in my Scholastic Book Fair. They were basically, the shelves were just Series 2000 books with a couple of the original 62. But I have for number 4, Return to Ghost Camp. That thing is nightmare fuel. times 1,000. The book itself isn't that great. The original Ghost Camp is like almost a flawless story. It's such a good book, but I like the cover art for this one a hell of a lot better, just because I don't know what it is. This really pops to me. I love the background of the trees. I love the colors, and this is what really grabs my attention, though. The detail down here. If you actually really look at that book, I mean, it's hard to see because you've got the glare but the detail of the actual campsite, there's so many little fine lines in there, and I love looking at it. I always, like, you look at the monster and you go, oh, that's creepy, but then you kind of go down here and you're like, whoa, that actually looks so amazing. The actual finer details. So I got to know, Tim, like, what was the inspiration behind the skull?
Actually, it worked the other way. I knew I was going to make a monster come out of the smoke, and I needed the base there to work. You know, the fire in the fire pit and the 5 or 6 seats around it, and get the shadows right so that it had a place to come out of. I was pretty sure I could get something to look like a ghost or a skeleton or something to work out of that wispiness. But the real work was getting the cabin and the fire and keeping the perspective right without it falling apart and you going, oh, that building, there's something wrong with it. The roof's not on right. So that one was the farthest away thing is what I thought made the rest of it work.
Yeah,
it just showed like how far up it was going into the air.
Yeah,
and we were starting, and that's what was a fun change after the original 62 was to get away from the square box and then use the whole background. So now we were doing 20 inches by 30 inches. So I had a whole other 10 inches. Although it was going to be covered up with text, there was still texture and things that I could put up in there, and we could carry the wispiness of that smoke monster or ghost up to the top, and like you said, you could still see the trees and everything else. So it was fun to do that extra area of paintable space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw the cover, like as a kid, I remember just seeing it and going, "Ooh, like that looks freaky ass. What the hell is this?"
And that was part of the instructions of the 2000 series was go ahead, ramp it up. You know, the Goosebumps kids are a little bit bigger now. You know, they kind of become accustomed to what you're going to do. So if you want to go a little more edgy, and that was great. It was fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it so much.
Tim, what do you got for number 4?
All right. Again, another one that's we're sticking with the Mummy and the Dummy, which is the name of it. Oh. Gummy meets Mummy.
I do like it.
Yes, I like this one. I like I like the comic element of it. Again, same thing, and you're getting a 2-for-1 here. You're getting the Mummy character, and you're getting Slappy in there as well. So yeah, beautiful piece.
Great green background.
It's kind of like
what Ray did, where he infused 2 monsters, where he did like the Deep Trouble Squid with like wrapped around Slappy. That's kind of like the Mummy wrapped around Slappy. Like, so
exactly, it was engulfing them and taking them over. You're right. And this was the greens that he used on this one were a little less of the lime green and more of the teal. And that teal color is brilliant. That works real well and gets stuff to pop off. Again, he controls his values so well. Values meaning, the controls of light against dark. He's a master at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jallo, what do you got for number 4?
So my number 4, even though I talked earlier about, sort of seeing Tim as a background artist, my number 4 is Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Very specifically, the 2004 re-release edition, because in the 2004 re-release, what they did was they flipped the artwork and then they added this blue border around the whole thing, this bright, vibrant blue. And that color, like, literally the only thing that I wasn't in love with. Yes, like I think it enhances the piece. Like it enhances your artwork so much. Like it makes it pop so much. Usually, I really, really did not like the 2004 re-releases because I didn't like that it took less real estate of your art away. You know, like the borders on the outside, they were not planned. You know, so when they kind of clash with your artwork in a way, like slightly with the composition. But this one, there's nothing to clash with, you know. There's no, so it really truthfully like enhances it. And I love that the perspective that's usually in your backgrounds is in the piano itself. You know, you really, you know, that was the only thing you had to do, so you cranked it up. I think that's so fun. And I think this one really perfectly rides the line between, it's like a little creepy, but it's like, it's funny, it's just wacky. Like that is the Goosebumps vibe. It's just wacky. Like it's perfect. I really love it. It's very quintessential.
Play it again, hands.
Yeah,
love that one.
It's just so silly. And specifically the 2004 version, I think it is like far and away the best of those re-releases, because it's the only one that I feel like didn't detract from the artwork a little bit, you know, because it, like I said, it's just shrinking it ever so slightly, but that little bit, it does matter for composition, especially like in some of the big outside scenes, like the Blob that ate everyone, or the Nightmare on Shock Street, or Shock on Shock Street. Those pieces really, I think, didn't benefit so much from that border, but that's that 2004 release. That one it just speaks to me.
Mm-hmm. And I can't remember whether we had a discussion about it or not, because maybe in my sketches, again, I could be wrong. We had the hands more, you know, hacked off, and the fact that we cleaned that up and just made it a clean cut as if they were surgically removed
off.
Yeah, it definitely made it work better on that particular one. There's plenty of room for the hacking and the cutting on other covers, but that one, yeah, I like the clean cut.
Mm-hmm. It would have been kind of cool to just have a little bone protruding at least. Like you could keep the clean cut,
yeah.
Like a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing, but you can't win them all.
In the TV show, they had the hands, but they were like the gloves.
Oh yeah, they had gloves on them. They were still physical hands.
Yeah,
but I like just the hands, like just regular hands playing a piano. It's a really fun one. Nick, your turn. Number 4.
One of my favorite covers from Series 2000, but easily my favorite story from Series 2000 as well. Headless Halloween.
Yes. Oh,
I absolutely love this one.
Number 1, actually.
I am like obviously big into the Halloween stories and the Halloween art. So wouldn't surprise some of you to know what my number 1 is if you follow us for more than one episode. However, you know, one that didn't make it but deserves an honorable mention, besides Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, is the Haunted Mask 2. I do love that one as well. But when you compare it to something like the Series 2000 where you can ramp it up a little bit more, and like I just love the head. Like it's grotesque but funny at the same time. I mean, but it goes right back to the little
Homer Simpson vibe to it.
It does. Yeah, it really does. I didn't think about that, but it really does. That's funny.
Yeah,
no, it's.
But I mean, like again, like jack-o'-lanterns are my jam. I mean, I've got them all over my house. So this cover really spoke to me, but the story is great too. So it was just a bonus. The story was great, but definitely one of my favorite pieces.
One of the better Series 2000 stories for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to move on to the final 3, the final countdown, as they sing in the song. It's time to go on to my number 3 spot. Mine is probably the most nostalgic of them all. My favorite OG 62 cover is You Can't Scare Me.
Wow.
I love this one. I really, really do. I know.
Wow.
I know, Joe. You're not a big a fan on this one.
That was my number 62.
I know. So I was going in being like, maybe I'm gonna be a little bit an outsider on this one. But
I'm sorry that my video was like that, because you love Slappy and you love like the Goop and Ooze villains, which is the total flip of me.
Hey, I mean, it makes for interesting opinions, so
Yeah.
don't apologize at all.
It's all taste.
But for me personally,
And
I
when,
love
and we
this
do
one.
the fight, I mean, it'll be live on pay per view. It'll be better than that Jake Paul Mike
It'll
Tyson
be
one. I
better
promise you that.
than the Jake Paul Mike Tyson one. So we'll be there
I
for that
promise you
one.
that. It'll be much better.
But again, pinnacle of goop is this one. I love that it almost looks like they're definitely human, but it almost looks like they could just be like completely made out of mud. Like you don't know where the mud like ends and the person begins in a little sense. I like that there's one that is like just emerging right here. There's one that's halfway through, and then you got this one that's just like slowly crawling. And as we mentioned, you know, Tim, you modeled yourself for some of your covers. This is one of the ones that you did was this front one doing the
Yeah.
pose like that.
All three positions. There's
Really?
a
All three of them?
somewhere. Yeah.
Wow.
No,
Wow, that's really cool. I only
I did
thought
not
it was
know. I knew
the
about
first
the one. I didn't know about the other two.
But
Yeah.
and not only that, but just like this is something I felt was lost whenever they used the mud monster in promotion. The use of like, you know, leaves and vines that are part of the mud. Like it's not just mud itself. There's just like all sorts of like
Sticks
you know, sticks and leaves and vines and stuff inside it too. So it just made it look more monstrous and disgusting. It's such a good one. I love the use of oranges and browns.
yeah, I was going to mention that's a unique color palette from all the other ones. It's actually kind of limited. It's just the yellows and oranges, a little bit of the teal in the shadow just to keep it rich. But it was nearly monochromatic. Being, you know, it's when I first started it on the little color comp, it was just orange, and I knew it was going to work. But yeah, the yellows made it pop. And to your point, they are supposed to be part of the. It's all they're coming out of the ooze, so they're, you know, it's all the same thing. The mud is them; they are the mud.
And finally, the face, the face of the main one, especially, is just because the mouth is just agape. There's no pupils. It's just black holes in the head. I gush about this for hours. It's my favorite OG62 one. So the next two are going to be non OG62, but I love this one. One of my absolute favorites from when I was a kid. Yeah, there's not much else I could say about it without rambling. You Can't Scare Me is my number 3. I love it a lot. So that's that. Bjorn?
For my number 3, I have Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. That has got to be the most goriest of the Goosebump covers. Would you say it is, Tim? Like that would be
100%. Yeah, there's an eyeball hanging out there. There was no way they were letting me get away with that. That was so much fun. Absolutely, it thrilled me to death.
Yeah, exposed bone. I mean, that's another really cool tree, Dello. I like that tree.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, no. Honestly, I've mentioned this so many times already in different videos, but there's just something about that cover art that, again, is very, very unsettling. Even though it's not really zombies in the story, but there's just, I don't know, there's something about it. Like, obviously, when they did the Goosebumps movie, they did the ghouls and they made them look like zombies. As we've sort of said on this channel, how many times that they just looked at probably the covers and went, oh, yeah, we'll do that.
That's an easy one. Let's do that.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
The part I like in that cover is the touch of flesh tone that's left on the middle knuckles. That's the only thing that's human that's left on them. The rest of it has all disappeared.
No, it's such a great cover, and I think what really accents this to make it really pop is because obviously on the Series 2000 books they did the raised, not just on the Goosebump letters, but they did the front as well. So the embossed, it just really popped this cover particularly with all the different like flesh and bone and all that. So yeah, no, that's definitely my number 3. It's just it's my favorite of the Series 2000 covers, 100%. It's just such a beautiful piece. So yeah, this is another one I'd love to get blown up and put up on the wall. So I might have to get one of those, Tim.
Yeah, I gotta start mixing in some of the 2000s into into the store.
Those are definitely ones I would get too. I would proudly hang those on my wall. But Tim, what do you got for your number 3 pick?
My number 3 pick is Planet of the Lawn Gnomes. Revisiting a couple of classics. Now, I dig his version more than mine. My guys were all supposed to be a joke, and they were more comical than anything. Where these guys are badass. They're frightening. He's got all of it working there, and the choice of colors here, very cool. The teals and the reds work really well here, and it's simple. It's just them, and that's all you need. You didn't need to put in anything else. It all happens right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's
absolutely. That's the beauty of the Most Wanted covers, is that the monsters were the pure focus. Didn't need to have anything else. It was just put the monster on there, make them look as ghoulish or gross as possible.
They really were. Like Murder the Clown, we got our introduction to him in the Most Wanted series as well. Like, because I remember when the movie came out, everyone was like, "Who's this clown?" So that book came out right at the time of the film. It was almost like, you know how sometimes when they bring out like a book or whatever, and it's like, "Hey, this is going to be in the movie," or it's almost like that was one of the very few books they gave us from the Most Wanted. And again, like they really focused on him, even like Night of the Puppet People, like you really focused on the 2 marionettes as opposed to like what's in the background. So yeah, no, you're right. The Most Wanted books did focus on that. Like the main focus was just the monster.
Yeah. Jello, what do you got for your number 3?
So briefly, I just want to say, if you want to have me back, I think a good video could be, you could talk about the top 5 of each of our international covers, because that's something I totally didn't even think about for this list. But so many, especially of the Asian one, like the Japanese, Chinese, and the South Korean. The South Korean covers are mind blowing,
creepy as shit.
Yeah, like I would love to get to talk about some of those.
It's Korean cover for "You Can't Scare Me." Like that one is haunting.
Yeah, the South Korean one for the Lawn Gnomes, the Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes, is the one that made me remember this in the first place. But I think that could be a really fun topic.
I think so too. Absolutely. Because we had an episode looking at the international versions of the characters, so we got to see versions of those covers. But that would be a really good one to revisit another time.
Monster Blood, we'll definitely have to do that.
So freaky. Do you remember that one? The one of Cuddles like holding the kid, I think it was the German one. I was like,
the French
what?
one. French one, yeah.
The French covers are ridiculous. The French, like the mutant. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. But my number 3, I'm actually going to go to Series 2000 as well. Mine is a bit of a tie between Horrors of the Black Ring and Brain Juice. And the reason that these 2 are my favorite is because I really feel like Series 2000, not just in like its tone, but in Jacobus's art, it really took on this darker, feeling. And both of those covers are very, very dark. Like Horrors of the Black Ring is just entirely this like it's jewelry. It's jewelry. It's bright, shiny jewelry, but it's dark. It's all like black and purple and blue, and like all of the golds and all the silvers are so muted. And so that ring in the center just pops so much. And it's the same thing with Brain Juice. If I had to put one above the other for my official number 3, I would say Brain Juice, because it's the most, like you were talking about value earlier. It is the starkest contrast between like this big thing up in your face and then just like this void behind it. And I really think it captures what Series 2000 was in a fantastic way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Brain Juice was one of Stein's favorites too. He talks about all the time.
Yeah, we pulled that one out. Yep. And that was one of the ones where I was like, I don't know if it's enough until I got to the final painting. It was like, yeah.
But it is. It proves itself. It really is.
Yeah. But again, as a pencil sketch, you're going, yeah.
It's just a brain. It's just a brain on an empty background, But then the brain,
But the brain, honestly, we talk about Graveyard Ghouls being the goriest. Honestly, I would say it's a tie between Graveyard Ghouls and Brain Juice, because Brain Juice is just a brain. Like it is no shit, no nonsense, a brain with juice being poured on it, and it's I would be disgusted if I wasn't so intrigued.
And I've talked about this before when Goosebumps died off and I was looking for extra work. There's a lot of medical advertisers who are in the New Jersey area. And I got a chance to do some medical illustrations. And the fact that I could paint ooze and goo and drippy stuff was the thing that got me the jobs. 1,000%. So if you could paint, if you can paint monster blood, you can get yourself a job doing some medical illustration.
Yeah, definitely. Nick, what do you got for number 3?
Well, I'll keep this short and sweet because it's the same one Bjorn had. Graveyard Ghouls. I mean,
well, I might as well just say that's my number 2.
I mean, look at this. Look at this. Yeah, we'll cover them both at the same time here. I mean, this is my favorite Series 2000 cover. I mean, there's so much going on here and so much detail. I mean, I love even to the color background. Again, you got like that sunset color in those trees that just perfectly accent like the foreground of this whole cemetery and these ghouls, because not zombies, but yeah, again, like Bjorn said, the fact that the texture on there, and you almost can like kind of feel, because of the way the art's done, how these pop, and it kind of makes you cringe a little bit with your fingers when you do that. But I mean, it's just so good, and I like that the fact that they did, in fact, when they raised these covers, try to put as much as the detail you did into the art when you actually touch those, and that's what gives you that. Like even down to the side of the tombstone here, like you can feel what almost would be considered, I guess, their version of a book cover stone, because of all the lumps and everything you put there. They have that in there, so they do a really good job with not only just capturing your art there, but obviously your art's what made that pop.
Yeah,
it is the dangling eyeball. I think that honestly, I think that face is great. That face always got me. Because I like it. Makes me think of Return of the Living Dead, and I love that.
It's very Return of the Living Dead, because it really is the goriest cover. I mean, you got like the ripped skin on the fingers here with the bone showing, like sort of like the bloody-ish knuckles. You got this dude, not only his eye hanging out, but he's got like half of his head is missing, and he's got like brain juice coming out of his head.
Literally.
It's gnarly as hell, and I love it, because it was just this is the epitome of what Series 2000 was. It was ramping everything up in terms of the writing and the cover art, and it just made this series so much more. I gotta tell you right now, if I wasn't confined to just 10, I probably would have put way more Series 2000 on here on my list. Series 2000 was just phenomenal in terms of cover art, but this one,
I will say, like, I know we talked about it a little bit when you were on here before, Tim, with Invasion of the Body Squeezers, but that dual cover art was fantastic. Like that, like again, like Isaiah said, I'd have way more Series 2000 on here, probably most, if not all of them, just because, as much as I love the original 62, there was that change up where you could ramp up stuff, really like open the floodgates for these covers, and it just it makes me wonder what we could have got with some of the original 62 if they gave you that same leeway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, true.
But I think it's that thing, where you got through the first 62 and then, like you had to wait. It's the anticipation of waiting until we could, ramp it up and make it happen. So I don't know if it would have been better if we were already shooting all the guns off early on, or if these seem to take on a life of their own because we've got that extra element that we are allowed to add. So,
right.
Definitely. Well, we're already in the midst of our number 2 picks. Of course, mine was Graveyard Ghouls. Bjorn, what is your number 2?
Well, my honorable mention is, of course, well, my honorable mention will be my favorite Goosebump book, The Horror Camp Jelly Jam. Love the cover art so much. And obviously, I know you modeled for this one, Tim. This was a very famous model picture. This is probably the one that's been shared the most of you, like modeling, because you're doing the full expression. And
exactly. Couldn't ask anybody else to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, this is my favorite Goosebump story. I don't know why it is. It just is, like it. I mean, look, we're all different. We all have our different preferences of what's our favorite. And somehow this ticks all the boxes for me. It's gross. It's eerie at times. It's, it's got all those things. And I feel like you captured that with just their face. Like this part, like you've got all the backgrounds, which is beautiful. Like, again, you've got the sunset, you've got the trees, you've got the dorms, like, the cabins and everything. And, but there's just something about the face that I don't know, like, as a kid, I remember when I saw this one on the shelf from even like this far away, you could just see the face because it was so like it's in your face, literally. So yeah, honorable mention is that. But my number 2
I actually think that that's on your store website now, isn't it? That's one of your
we just added that
released
one.
prints.
Yep.
That'll be my next purchase.
I was gonna say
that's next. But my number 2, this was tricky because number 1, yeah, I've saved number 1 because for a lot of reasons. But number 2 is the book that I saw before any other Goosebump book that got me into it. And I've already said this how many times on the channel, but this is if it wasn't for this book, I may have never got into Goosebumps, and I've been teasing it the entire time, which is of course. When I obviously first got into Goosebumps for the very first time, I was only 4. I hadn't even turned 5 yet, so I was like very young brain, and I remember this was the stack of books. So there was literally a stack of books, right? And that was the one just sitting on top. And as my cousin said, I was staring at it like a weirdo for a very, very, very long time. And yeah, as Nick's already covered with the colors and everything, it's just something about it. Less is more. Like you've just got, obviously Night of the Living Dummy 2, we got to see Slappy in full effect with the back, everything. But this one, it's just, you just get that close-up shot and it's very demonic somehow. I don't know. It's very creepy, it's extremely eerie. That's the word. It's one of the most eerie covers in the Goosebumps universe. And obviously, as you were talking, Jallo, like with the colors, the reds just match so well, like with the actual cover art itself. So there's just something about it to me that's flawless. Like this is a flawless Goosebump book from top to bottom.
And at the last minute, they decided to tilt that art. When I painted it, it's totally vertical, 90 degrees, straight up and down.
It adds so much, though.
Yeah, it does.
Filterness of it.
Absolutely changed it. And I remember when they first, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Something they did fix in the 2000 reprints is that they straightened it out.
Did that, Nick, too.
Because I like the tilted one, but I also like him just kind of being straight and popping up and that sort of thing. So I think they both look good, but
I don't know if it's the fact that it's just was the cover we got and that's why it's more nostalgic to me of the tilt, or if it's the fact that like you kind of think of like Myers in the 78 film, with the slight head tilt, there's something just a little creepy and off with
that is the easiest way that through just motion to tell the audience that something is off, like a doll just slightly, just ever so slightly cocking its head. That's all the storytelling you need. Right. It's great.
Kind of like, exactly like what you did with Night of the Living Dummy 2. He had that slight head tilt, again, sitting there, and it does it. It throws it off.
Yeah, but, it's just, to me, it's just a perfect Goosebump book cover, like everything about it. Like, and the slight tilt, like even you said, Nick, about how like when they brought out the pop vinyls recently, to have made that Slappy one immediately better would have just to tilt his head a little bit. And I kind of agree. Like, if you just made that pop vinyl, like if you just tilted that head like that, it would have immediately made that so much better. Like, I don't know, and give him glowing eyes or something. But yeah, I mean, look, Tim, literally, the books are becoming pop vinyls now. I mean,
crazy, right?
You are pop culture.
For years you've seen all those pops everywhere. and they've covered just about everything. And people come to me like I'm in control somehow. And they're like, oh, why don't you do it? And I'm like, first off, it's a long story. But I didn't think they'd ever happen. And then, again, just like the movie, you start to hear rumblings. Oh, yeah, they're going to do them. I'm like, no, they're not. And New York, when I went to New York Comic Con this year, that was the first. I had seen them on the internet, but that's the first time somebody actually walked up with a couple of them. And the fact that there's multiples is way cool. Very cool.
And the covers are appearing on the new reprints again.
Oh, wow. No shit.
So since unfortunately Brandon Dorman no longer is doing Goosebumps, they had to get something else for the reprints now, and they've started using your original artwork.
Wow.
Like Egg Monsters from Mars.
Nice.
And Girl Cried Monster.
Royalties.
And Go.
No, that's not how it works.
And the Body Squeezers.
Yeah, well, that's nice to hear, because I've always been, in recent years where people go, oh, where can I get them? It's like, well, sure, you can go to the thrift store or go to garage sales. But I would always tell them, jump on Amazon and buy the tins, because those were the only places where you could get the art on new books. So that's cool.
Which they are doing another 10 as well that comes out next year.
Awesome.
Yep. So
it's been a while since we had a 10. Actually, they did that last one.
2 trees.
Well, it's been like a year. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So next year will be the first time we've had one in like 3 or 4 years by that point.
Yeah, Blob that Ate Everyone, Girl Cried Monster, Camp Nightmare, Go Eat Worms, and Cuckoo Clock. That's the 5 that are going to be in that 10.
Wow.
So, Tim, what do you got for your number 2 pick?
Number 2. All right. We have Revenge of the Invisible Boy. Now, the thing that's cool about this is, and I've run into this as well, because I did a cover of the original Invisible Man years ago. And when there's nothing there, it's hard to get the dramatic part. And the fact that he used the spray painted face on the locker on this was just absolute brilliance. I don't know if that's part of the story or what, but going from 3D to 2D was just very, very, very well done. And again, the color palette is very cool. But the dripping paint, the whole thing, just I remember seeing that on the shelf and going, I think I wouldn't have got. There's plenty of times where I look at other people's art and I go, yeah, I might have got there. When I saw this one, I was like, nah, I would have missed that one. That's a real good idea.
Mm-hmm. And a shout out to the Goosebumps Wiki. There is a lot of concept art for that one from Brandon Dorman on his page on the Goosebumps Wiki, so you can see all the different poses he was trying out, the different effects he was going for. And I think that is the best one he landed on, but there was so many for that one, like he was testing out.
He overworked that. That was for sure. Yeah, I saw that same thing where, there was, better than a dozen images for this one book. Yeah.
Jallo, what do you got for number 2? Your runner-up, so to say.
Yeah, so my number one is my most biased, nostalgia-driven, the one that was very important to me. Sort of like Bjorn's number 2. But so I guess in a way that you could say that my number 2 is my favorite actual piece, strictly just this. This is the one that is doesn't have as much of an emotional attachment to me, but is it really scratches that itch. And for me, it is How to Kill a Monster. I think How to Kill a Monster is, in my opinion, it is the most underrated cover in the entire original run. I while I was writing my video, not to take other people's ideas or take other people's rankings, I like to look at other people's rankings before I do my own, just to sort of get I want to know, if I have a hot take, I want to know it's a hot take before I say it, so I wanted to gauge other people's perspectives. And How to Kill a Monster, I noticed, was always in the 50s and 60s. It was always so low, but I really think every single thing about it is flawless. I love the shine on everything. I love the gradients. I love the depth of the background. I love the vagueness of the monster. I love the texture on just everything. It is like, I mean, video essayists like myself love to throw the word quintessential around, but it really just, it is just the perfect Goosebumps cover to me. It does every single thing that you need it to do. It's goofy, it's bright, it's wacky, it's pink. It's like, it's just great. I really do. And I love the arms reaching around. Just everything about it is just so striking. It's great.
When I remember correctly, you gushed about the full cover in and of itself, not just the art, but the use of colors on the cover, the tagline, the name.
Yeah, the run. Step 1, run. Step 2, run faster. That's the literal only single tagline that's better than that is "Welcome to Dead House. It will just kill you." That's other than "it will just kill you." Step 1, run, and step 2, run faster. Like you want to make the kids afraid. Like that's because I mean, to me, that scaredness is that I'm always been a very curious person. Curiosity killed the cat. It was the fear of Goosebumps that got me into it. It was like, oh, like that's so scary. I don't even want to like get near it as a kid. And then like you would get closer, and then that curiosity is what pulls you in. And How to Kill a Monster just does it. Just does it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like the ceiling fan in there too.
Yeah.
At the doorway. It's hard to see, but I love it.
Everything in the background. There's like, you can see the drawers and this like big dresser with the mirror and the baseball cap. Like there's so much stuff in the back. Like I call you a background artist all the time, and so little of the composition, like you creak open the door, so little of the composition is the background, but you squeeze so much in there, especially because of the forced perspective, the perspective of like shifting, like as you go up the door, it widens. And so like you see more of the room, and it just opens up in a great way. It's like, it's great visual storytelling. It's just great. Like your eye just wanders around the image. It's wonderful. It's a great visual experience.
Like the opposite of Stay Out of the Basement, where like instead of seeing nothing, you can see everything.
Yeah. That's what's scary is not like, oh, like it's not like what's the dad's secret lab in the basement. It's not that. That's a regular room. That's my room. And something's in there. That is what the like fear is from. And so like actually getting to see the room it just hammers it all home. It's great. It's wonderful.
Exactly. I totally agree. Nick, what do you got for number 2?
Oh, going back to original 62 and going back to the choice of color is also why this is one of my favorites. The Werewolf of Fever Swamp.
Yes.
Everything about this cover, I mean, even the color choices they chose for your art really complement it in such a way that it's just eye-catching. And obviously, like, I love the wolf. I mean, that's a super realistic wolf, but I mean, like, I like the clothes that are just laying there. The fact that, like, the swamp is actually green, but you got that, like we were talking about, kind of like that Goosebumps green, that neon green kind of swamp there. But again, the moon. Again, I'm a sucker for the moon. Apparently, didn't even realize it until this video, but everything about this is just phenomenal. I love the color palette that was used. Even the fact that like you have like the shading around the moon, that's a different color than the actual color of the sky,
and the trees like framing it all.
Details.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just little details that. Again, as a kid, you kind of miss these things, but like we were talking about, as you go into adulthood and you start looking at these covers more and appreciating them more for the detail that was put in, you start looking at little things. The one thing I will say, I don't know why it's not in here. It was a missed opportunity. Where's his red Converse over here, Tim? No red Converse over here.
Yeah, got a shirt, but no Converse sneakers.
Who wears their shoes to the swamp? I mean, he's going there to wolf out.
Who knows?
Well, if you're going to go there to change, why bring a hat and a shirt?
Well, one thing I
just go naked.
I hope I'm not misremembering, but I think they gave the Werewolf Fever Swamp in the Goosebumps movie Converse sneakers.
He did.
Like,
they did.
His feet ripped through them, but he's still wearing them, which was really cool. I wonder if that was a deliberate.
Surely.
I would hope so.
It would have to be.
That's such a staple of the visual language of the series.
Yes, definitely. Converse sneakers and checkerboard tile flooring. Yep.
Gotta have.
Well, it's time to move on to our number 1 picks, the best Goosebumps covers for each of us. And we already mentioned this one, so I'll keep it short and sweet, but I love Headless Halloween. Love this one. This one, I swear, I would put a 27 by 40 poster of this one in my room, like right over there. I put it right over there. I love the use of blue in the sky, and this is probably the best use of the moon for me because it's so large, and it's like the essential backing lighting source here. The composition is great. I love the green glow around the mask and on the shirt here. The orange of the pumpkin just pops. I love the mask and like the headless body. It almost looks like, I don't know, it almost kind of looks like he's hiding his head in his shirt, but you also can't like see anything in there, so it's very mysterious. This is like the quintessential Halloween one for me.
Holding his head. He's holding his head.
He's holding his head, yeah, exactly. So now I won't go any further. We already went into this one, but this is my number one pick. I love it so much. Best Series 2000 cover, best Goosebumps cover for me personally. So that is my number one pick.
Yeah.
Yorn?
Well, my number one is, of course, Go Eat Worms. I just love maths, and there's plenty of times tables on there. And
I thought you were going to pull out chicken. That's what I was going to do.
I was hoping for chicken earlier. I was sad, disappointed.
Chicken on their list. No, my number one is actually something a little different that I don't know if any of you have got it as your number one. My number one is actually, you ready for this one?
Oh my gosh, you got me on pins and needles, dude.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because look at what you've got on there. I mean, think about it. And I had one question for Tim. Is this meant to be the Headless Halloween guy, or is this Ghost
That's
Speech?
the Ghost Speech guy. That's Ghost Speech. It was before. Yeah, that was before the 2000 series, so he didn't exist yet.
Got it.
Okay, so he's holding the shrunken head here. You got the Scarecrow, you got the Mummy, and you've got R.L. Stein in your style.
Scariest part.
Oh, yeah, the scariest part. You got Cuddle, you got Slappy, you got How to Kill a Monster Hand.
The Bad Hair Day.
Yeah, it's like this, to me, this cover is perfect because they're all there. Or at least most of the iconic ones are there. You know what I mean? The only one I maybe is missing is the Haunted Mask, Nick.
I was going to say.
No, that Brandon Dorman would go on to do.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. And Brandon went on to do his version. But this, to me, is perfect. Because you got even Curly there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a perfect one. I don't know. It's the definitive to me. Because you got all the monsters and you've got Stein there sitting at his computer, like, writing the next book, whatever it may be.
Really is the catch-all. It's the big hurrah, like, finale art, you know? So I totally respect that number one pick.
Yeah, definitely. It's like that is probably the most quintessential. That's the word of the day, folks. Quintessential. That's probably the most quintessential Goosebumps art right there, because it encapsulates all the Goosebumps characters, or
a lot of the iconic ones, definitely.
The inside to the soundtrack to the movie also has a good collection of the Goosebumps characters. The double page, the double split.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, that's big.
Yeah,
sitting in the movie theater. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, looks so good.
Such a good one. Tim, what's your number one pick?
All right, we talked about this earlier, but just because it is as horrific as it comes, Frankenstein's dog.
Yes.
That is my number one pick, just because it has all of it. It is a little funny, but it's mostly terrible. And we've all known somebody, or we've owned this dog. That they start out as cute little puppies, and by the time they're ready to go, their teeth are gnarled out of their head. They smell. They've got open sores on them.
They're shaking.
I had a dog. His name was George, and George was a mess. He was a mess. He was so disgusting.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Jello, that must be
That was a
great
great
news for
pick.
you.
Yeah. That's great to hear for me. I feel vindicated with my pick.
Yep. And what's your number one pick?
My number one pick, I've got right here.
Nice.
I think everyone out there has got a special place for like the one that like really hooked them. Like the one that scared you as a kid will never not scare you a little bit. Like that first one. And for me, that was The Curse of Camp Cold Lake. It's the only book that I vividly remember every aspect of the story. It's the only one that I could just instantly tell you the main character's name. It's the only one that I could vividly tell you the events of the story because it is ingrained in my psyche. And the only reason that I ever even became a fan of Goosebumps, or the only reason I was really pushed so much into horror is because I picked up Curse of Camp Cold Lake from this Classics book fair in first grade or whatever it was. But yeah, so thank you, Tim, for helping me on my artistic journey with this piece and every other one.
That's awesome.
And Nick, what do you got? I feel like I know what it is, but what do you got?
I think we all know. Because it goes right back to what Cello was saying. The one that got me hooked. Haunted Mask. Like, nothing beats this for me. Like, the art's everywhere, and that's totally fine because I buy everything that this art is on. To me, when I saw that on Scholastic Bookshelf, like, for real, I was like, oh my God, what is this? I was like, I need to look at this. And when I saw it was a Halloween story, because I'm very big into Halloween, always have been. So when I saw it was a Halloween story, I love the mask design that you did for this. I mean, it's really cool how she's pulling it on, but it's coming alive as it gets closer. Mm-hmm. But it's so simple. And it's one of those ones that, like, you don't have to do like an exorbitant background piece for this. Like, this itself stands out on its own. It very much goes into kind of like what we were discussing with Brandon Dorman's art, where it's very character focused. And that by design just intrigues you more, because now you're wondering more about what the story is. Like, who's this girl? Why does she have this mask? Why is that mask alive? Like, what is happening here? Like, it really drew me in and started me on my Goosebumps horror journey. Now, don't get me wrong, I was watching things like Child's Play and stuff when I was 6 years old, because this was a different era, kids, okay? So, my mom and my grandparents didn't care. So, a little different. So this was mild compared to what I was used to, but this story captivated me. I think so. Really, it was a double hitter for me.
I think another thing is that it perfectly plays off of, like, as every great Goosebumps book does. I think it really plays off of, like, the childlike fear. Like, there's this childlike wonder that these books have, but it's playing off of these childlike fears. And I literally, because of this book, could not wear a mask for Halloween. If there was something, if I wanted it to be something that had to have a mask, I would paint my face, because I simply, like, I was so petrified that it would stick to my face. And that cover as well is what got me into, like, the Halloween 3, the Season of the Witch, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, masks are a very fun, very creepy thing, and it plays off of a child's fears in just every way that it should.
Going back to how R.L. Stine says he came up with the idea, his son Matt got a Frankenstein mask stuck on his face, and instead of helping him, he ran to his notepad and wrote the idea down.
Like, that'd be a good book. Sounds exactly something like Stein would say too.
Hey, but then
which I think is really funny. And actually, did you say it was your niece last time you were on here who posed for that?
Yep.
So just imagine going around though saying, "That's me on that cover." That's super iconic.
I could take it a step farther. So that's Jessie. Jessie is a doctor. Jessie has 4 kids of her own, but she will, if you go into her office, she will tell you when she's examining you that is her on that Goosebumps cover.
Aww.
Well, I remember you said that she thought she was going to, like, appear on a cover, and then she found out that her face was being covered by a mask.
Absolutely.
Oh man,
no one will ever know it's me.
Great story. Always makes me laugh. But wow, that's the end of our lists. And I mean, like I said, we were going into this blind. We didn't know what each of us had, and I feel like there was a lot of twists and turns, as very appropriate for Goosebumps down the line. But
absolutely. And let me say one thing too. Coming into this, I was a little leery about, like this is all beyond cool that you guys appreciate what I do and appreciate the art, but it's a little weird to sit here and have smoke blown up your ass for almost 2 hours now. And I thought it would be a lot more uncomfortable, and it wasn't, because you guys do pay attention to the details that are in the art itself, and it's not just a throw off. Everybody pulled up. I didn't expect a lot of the covers that you guys pulled, some deep pulls, and the reasons that you pulled them were also, things that either were intentional or I didn't think of it that way, and it gives me a new way of looking at the art. So I appreciate all of this. It was very cool.
And again, if there's any takeaway from this one tonight, it's that we could blow smoke up Tim's ass all day if we wanted to, but at the same time, we also wanted to give spotlight to the other Goosebumps artists who work tirelessly on these books. And again, please, to anyone watching or listening, please go check out all the other Goosebumps artists. Craig White, Mark Nagata, Brandon Dorman, Robert Ball, who's doing the new ones currently. Those guys do amazing work, not just Goosebumps, but even their Goosebumps art is phenomenal. Go check them out. They really deserve the support. Follow them on social media because, those guys deserve support, and they're really talented people just like Tim. And absolutely, 100%. And Tim, I mean, given all your praise to Brandon Dorman, and honestly, hearing you praise him like that, it has opened up my eyes a little bit, and really become a lot more accustomed to his art, because his art is great. But again, looking at it through a different lens is a very important thing. So it goes both ways, 100%. But yeah, so it was a great discussion, and we'll always keep talking about Goosebumps art. This was a hard list to put together because there's so many wonderful art pieces.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to do the reverse. The lowest 10.
The worst.
The worst 10.
You got to reinvite me for that.
Yeah. See, I could live through what you think is the biggest thing. Yeah. That's way more comfortable.
We'll listen at another time.
and nobody, we're not going to include anybody else in the list. It's only me. Nope. They're only allowed to bust my balls. But, it's unfair. If they're not sitting here, we can't take anybody else down. But me, hell yeah, we could do that.
Oh, I'd be down. We're going to add that to our list of a list of topics. We have to do that at some point, and by all means, we'll invite both of them.
And the title of that episode has to be "The Roast of Tim Jacobus."
Well, as as I'm probably going to name this episode, we completely judged books by their covers tonight. But that is going to do it for tonight's episode of the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. I want to sincerely thank Tim Jacobus and Jallomoth, both of you guys, for joining us and giving us your insight. Wonderful time as always with you, Tim. If you want to go ahead and plug your website, and if you're doing any conventions coming up for the new year.
What's nice is a little time off. First one isn't until the beginning of February. That'll be MegaCon in Orlando, Florida. There'll be some other dates after that. I'll start to post them. The beginning of March is Emerald City in Seattle. So those are the first 2 of the year, and there'll be a bunch after that. And JacobusStudios.com. We've got 4 new posters in the rack. And again, appreciate all the support from you guys, especially. You guys have been around for a long time. We've known each other since you were kids, writing me letters. So the fact that this still goes on is very flattering and very cool.
Absolutely. And like I said, it's always a always a treat to have you on and just talk some Goosebumps and into the process and all that. So 100%, we are always invited back. And yeah, JacobusStudios.com. Of course, I'll leave a link in the description below. Make good Christmas presents. Christmas is coming up, so maybe get a few and gift them to a Goosebumps fan you may know.
Part of that goes to a donation that Tim does. So
absolutely, yep. There's a bunch of bags upstairs. They came yesterday. They go over on Saturday, so we got another truck full of stuff that's getting ready to go over. So again, that doesn't happen without all you guys.
So you can make someone's Christmas for someone you know, a Goosebumps fan, and for helping someone who's in need. It's a very good donation that you are making, getting something great out of it. And Jallomoth, thank you very much for joining us. And where can our audience find you?
You can find me on Jallomoth.com or YouTube.com/Jallomoth. That is where I post a majority of my stuff. I don't really talk about Goosebumps very often, but I loved talking about it, and I probably will again. But honestly, if you want to support the community and support Tim and support charity, you can go to JacobusStudios.com. This is one of my prized possessions. This is just I just love looking at it all day. And so do something nice for yourself and go check the website out. So.
Yep. And I'll, of course, leave the links to Jallomoth's Instagram and YouTube channel, as well as his two-part ranking of the original 62 covers. Please check that video out. It was awesome. It was the reason why we reached out to him and brought him on for tonight. And we'd be down to have you on again soon. Also, you are an honorary Goosebumps crew member in our line.
Oh, thank you. It makes me very happy to hear from Tim himself that he can take some criticism, because in my video, never in a million years did I make that with your eyes in mind, so
listen, I'm my harshest critics, and I've never
that's
heard
every artist so
anybody, mostly it rolls around in my head all day long, and what I have to say about myself and my art is not very pleasant. So I'm sure you're again, there's always value in criticism, and
I think the same. Yeah,
definitely. So check the Tim and Jallo both out. Links to their stuff is in the description, and of course, as always, follow Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps, Oxyvan and Sean respectively, and their social medias and their YouTubes. If you liked today's episode, make sure you leave a like and comment, subscribe to Goosebumps Crew on YouTube, follow us on your audio platforms and social media. All those links are in the description below. The description is going to be full of links, so make sure you navigate it really well. Next week, it's Christmas. We are having our big Goosebumps Crew Christmas party. You guys are going to want to tune in for that, because we got tons of special guests showing up for that one. So make sure you tune in next week. But until then, this has been the Goosebumps Crew Podcast, and from all of us here, I want to wish you all to take care, stay safe, and have a very scary day.